City.
Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
Yeah. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
Now, live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
We are live on a Monday here at the Fanatic Sportsbook at the Gallery Bar Book and Games at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. The Sports Bash is live. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning is back in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios producing today's show. My on-site producer is Pete Giordano. We are ready for Eagles and Falcons finally on Monday Night Football, and you can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. We got you ready for it, but the big news came down on Saturday when the Eagles announced that A.J. Brown will be out for the game tonight. No A.J. Brown, and how does that impact the game? Well, we've got all the particulars coming up. John McMullen at 3, football at 4 with Jeff Mosher, and Sal Paolantonio will join us tonight live from Lincoln Financial Field with an update on the Birds. What is the A.J. Brown not having him in the lineup? What does not having him in the lineup mean to this Eagles offense? Does this change the dynamics of a game against the Atlanta Falcons, who, look, defensively, they played pretty well last week against a somewhat limited Pittsburgh offense. But the Falcons' problem really isn't their defense. Their defense is solid. You know, their offense has had some issues with Kirk Cousins, and then last year with Ritter. They just don't have great quarterback play, and their offensive line is good. It's not great, but not having A.J. Brown, how does that change things? We're going to dive into that. We'll ask you at 609-403-0973 on the text board, 609-403-0973. Who's the guy that steps up tonight with A.J. Brown out? Is it Smith? Is it Goddard? Is it Dotson? Or is it Saquon Barkley? Who do you think will have the big game tonight against the Falcons? Let us know, 609-403-0973. You know, this game, all of a sudden, everybody, I got to tell you, it's turned into a big game, and I'll tell you why. This game this Monday night has turned into a big game tonight because next week, all of a sudden, you're playing a Saints team that looks pretty damn good on the road in New Orleans. The following week, you're playing a Buccaneers team that looks pretty darn good, and you got to play them on the road in Tampa Bay. You know, so these 3 straight games against NFC South teams at the beginning of the year, it kind of looks like, the Saints, the Bucs, the Falcons. These teams, all of a sudden, they're all kind of in a battle, and the Falcons know if they lose this game tonight, they fall to 0-2, and the Saints and the Bucs are ahead of them. And now you're on high alert because of the fact that you don't have A.J. Brown, and the Falcons have a little bit more confidence saying we can come in this building now and sneak one out. Why? You remember what the Eagles offense looked like the last time they didn't have A.J. Brown? They were putrid down there in the playoff game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were putrid in that game. And I don't know about you guys, but them not having A.J. Brown tonight, does that change the dynamics of this offense? The answer is it has to.
It changes the dynamic, but how much of that dynamic will be different this time because the offensive coordinator is different?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this. The offensive coordinator being different, I think, is a valid question. But here's the thing. Who does he have to go to? Because the one question we had at the beginning of the season was what? What happens if A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith end up getting hurt for an extended period of time? Now, I'm not suggesting it's going to be an extended period of time, but what I am suggesting is he's out tonight. And listen, you get a hamstring. How many times you get a hamstring and that guy comes back the next week? It's a 50-50 proposition. A lot of times, you know, go to this whole Christian McCaffrey thing. All of a sudden, opening night or whenever they played, their first game of the year, Monday night, it was McCaffrey's been ruled out. And everyone was like, whoa, McCaffrey's not playing tonight. Well, guess what? Now he's on the injured list. He's out for what, 4 weeks? So
he's going to miss 5 games altogether.
Yeah, sometimes these things come out of right field, and you almost like when A.J. Brown on Friday got put on the injured list with a hamstring injury, the first thought is, okay, maybe they're just kind of like easing him in. And then Sirianni says on Saturday, it just kind of popped up on Friday. Well, not too much after that did they rule him out. So the chain of events that has happened for A.J. Brown doesn't pass the sniff test of feeling positive for me. Do you guys think, this is just a precautionary thing? Or do you think there's a possibility that A.J. Brown misses multiple games? I don't know the answer to that question. But what I do know is the one guy the Eagles, or the two guys the Eagles are not equipped to play without are A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And until that is proven to me otherwise, I go in with trepidation tonight because of why. Guys, did we see what happened in the NFL this weekend? I mean, did we watch these NFL games this weekend? What's up was down, what left was right.
Yep.
I mean, that sounds like Bizarro World. Jerry Seinfeld.
It was Bizarro World. I mean, who had the Saints blowing the doors off the Cowboys?
Nobody.
Who had the the Cardinals blowing the doors off the Rams?
Nobody.
Who had Detroit losing at home?
Maybe somebody.
Well,
maybe a Bucs fan.
If you did, you were a better NFL fan than most of us.
I thought you were going to go Vikings 49ers.
Well, I'm getting to that one. Who had the Vikings beating the 49ers?
That was
Did
one of the
anybody
biggest
have
shockers.
any of those?
Did you mention the Raiders beating the Ravens?
The Raiders beating the Ravens is another good one. I mean, who had all of these things occurring on the same weekend? So guess what? You're on high alert tonight if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. You just watched what happened in this league, and you said, I don't know how to read all this, but I know I'm without my best offensive weapon, and I got to figure it out now. And you just mentioned it, Josh. You got Kellen Moore, and you're saying, okay, I trust Kellen Moore to try to, or I guess that is the question. Do you trust Kellen Moore to say, you know what, A.J. Brown's not here, that's fine. I will game plan differently, and I will set up a game plan where we don't have to rely so much on A.J. Brown. The question is, how do they replace him? Who replaces him? How do they get that? Here's a guy in A.J. Brown last week that had over 100 yards receiving and was the main guy in your offense. Yes, I know late in that game it was Devontae Smith who had some of the big catches, but a 66-yard touchdown, all those big plays early in the game, those two complement each other. Brown gets the big plays early, Smith closes you out late. Who's getting the big play early? You going to tell me Dotson is going to be a big part of the offense tonight? Here's a guy that, is he even playing on the outside? Are they going to keep him in the slot? Do they call up Paris Campbell? Man, this game just took a twist that didn't happen when we were at Charlie's on Friday, which was a great time, by the way. Great to meet a lot of the listeners who stopped out there. By the way, we'll be there this Friday as well for our final happy hour Friday of the summer season. And when we talked on Friday, we didn't have any inclination that this was going to be the case, and we're just kind of like, hey, Eagles, Falcons, feels like the Eagles have this game kind of in control, more talented team. You take A.J. Brown out of that equation, does it change your outlook for tonight's game? 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. That's the text board as the Eagles aim to start 2-0. This will be the third straight year, by the way, that the Eagles are 2-0. You talk about they need to play in the preseason. They don't play preseason games. The Eagles have been 2-0 the last every year under Nick Sirianni, and they're looking to get off to that start yet again with a win tonight. 609-403-0973. Mike, Dallas, Detroit, and San Fran all look lost yesterday. Devontae Smith versus A.J. Terrell will be a great battle. Would love to see the Birds get their pass rush going tonight, make Cousins uncomfortable in the pocket. That's from Steve. Yeah, Steve, to me, a key tonight is Bryce Huff. Okay? Bryce Huff has to be a guy that we're talking about tomorrow. So I want to ask you guys that question. 609-403-0973. Who is the guy that we have to be talking about tomorrow in order for the Eagles to win this game? Now, I'm going to throw another thing at everybody. All right? A.J. Brown is the man. And I talked about this on Friday's show. You have Jalen Hurts. Now, I said Jalen Hurts is the kind of guy for me that he's not the kind of guy, like, let's say, for instance, Bryce Young just got benched by Carolina, thankfully. I think you heard it on this show that I said he had no business being the first pick in the draft. He wasn't very. If you watched him play at Alabama, he wasn't all that good at Alabama. He just had talent oozing around him. He was small, doesn't have a great arm, and I said from the get-go, that guy will fail in the NFL. He will not. You should not draft him number 1. He's benched today. He got benched today.
And guess who he's benched for?
Yeah, Andy Dalton.
The Red Rifle's back,
That's right.
baby.
He is back, baby. Yeah, guess what? I bet you the 2 teams that played Carolina the last 2 weeks are glad they didn't have to face Dalton because they had a real NFL quarterback. He might not be great, but at least he's capable.
Yeah, that game looked like a college football game yesterday.
Well, Bryce Young is a college football player.
Quarterback.
Exactly. That's what he is. I mean, that's no shame. Like Johnny Manziel was a great college football player. He had no business playing in the NFL. I don't understand how teams can't see that. There are college quarterbacks and there are pro quarterbacks. And Bryce Young was, I remember doing a show. Maybe it was a bowl game or the SEC championship game. And I remember coming on the Monday after that saying, I don't think Bryce Young can play at the next level. Do you remember that show, Josh?
I do remember. And one of the things you brought up to Colin Thompson about it.
I said, I just don't think this kid can play at the next level. He just does nothing that impresses me other than improvise. He can, and like as we saw with Caleb Williams last night, you can only pump fake so much until the pump fakes are over and you go down. And they just treat it. Now, I'll give you this. Caleb Williams last night made some throws. Every now and then he shows you and I said, I don't like Caleb Williams in the NFL either. But he's at least a little bit bigger, has a little bit more arm talent than Bryce Young. But I told you at this year's draft, I didn't like Caleb Williams either. And a lot of it's because these guys improvise and run around so much at the college game.
They depend on it, right, Mike?
Exactly. It's a crutch for them.
Yep.
You can't rely on just running around and improvising. If that's a part of your game, great. Patrick Mahomes is an improviser, but he don't do it every play. That guy's got arm talent. He can read a defense. He can exploit the weaknesses. I said, I don't think Caleb Williams can do that, and I certainly didn't think Bryce Young could do that. I didn't like Bryce Young in college. I wasn't even that impressed with him at Alabama, and he was killing people. That being said, I want to bring it back to Hurts. I don't think Jalen Hurts is the kind of guy, like if he went to Carolina, all of a sudden that's a playoff team. He's not like a guy that I think is going to just all of a sudden make your team better because he's the guy. I think he's a product of the talent around him. Now, that's not a knock on him. You still have to get the ball to those guys, make the decisions. But is tonight a game where Jalen Hurts has to win the game for them? Like, at the end of the day, when I ask the question, who do we have to be talking about tomorrow? If the Eagles won this game, who do we have to be talking about tomorrow? Is it Jalen Hurts? Or is it, they don't really need him to win the game tonight? I'd say the one guy on defense that I want to talk about tomorrow, I hope, is Bryce Huff. I think he's a guy that if he doesn't have a good game tonight, you're going to start to have some worries about this pass rush. So Huff would be one guy. I have like 3 guys in my head, but is Jalen Hurts one of those guys for the people out there today? 609-403-0973. Mike, I think we lose AJ until after the bye. This has snowballed. Yeah, I can't really comment on that. I wouldn't be shocked, though. Anything hamstring related, I'm not shocked at any length of time. Those things suck. They are not fun to come back from. And if he's not playing in the game tonight, okay, it could be a precautionary thing, but I would not be shocked or surprised at all if this ended up lingering for a couple weeks.
Well, especially, Mike, if they win tonight. If they win the game and the offense looks at least competent, right? There's no rush for him to come back, right? It's kind of the idea that, hey, we don't need you immediately. Why don't you go take a couple extra weeks to heal that thing up?
Yeah, I know this. The one thing is you're early in the season. You didn't play in the preseason. And these are where some of those preseason lack of reps possibly catch up to some of these guys, where they didn't get a chance to go full explosion and explode off the ball, and then the hamstring. You try to explode in that first game or that first practice, and maybe that's where it catches you. Todd at Brigantine says, I'll be honest, even with a healthy Brown, I'm not sure they were going to win tonight. Without Brown, you don't have to worry. They won't win. You can watch the Phillies and enjoy watching a good team. You know, Todd at Brigantine.
That's a little bit too much for me.
I
mean, we're talking about Kirk Cousins on primetime football here.
That's a good point.
Have you mentioned that record yet?
I haven't, but
you will.
I like that Todd at Brigantine brings up the Phils because they're on tonight, and you always forget about that.
Magic number is 5.
And they're playing the Brewers. I mean, this is a huge series, by the way.
Rangers on the mound.
And Ranger Suarez is pitching tonight. You got Eagles and the Phils in a pennant race, And you get the Brewers that you're trying to bury them from catching you. And listen, I think the Brewers are what are they behind right now? 3.5 or 4.5, is it?
I think it's 3.5. Let me pull it up.
Yeah. It's a big game, though. Ranger.
Big series.
By the way, we talked about this Friday. And I don't know that anybody else brought this up.
Brewers are 4 behind, by the way.
Okay. The Phillies brought back Bohm and hit him in the 5-hole.
Yes, they
did.
Which
is what we talked about on Friday's show.
Yes, we did.
When they bring him back, are they going to put him back in the 4-hole? Or they have confidence in Castellanos to keep him in the 4-hole, and they put Bohm in the 5-hole the other day.
They're sticking with that hot bat.
And the Phillies just keep winning with Buddy Kennedy. And how about the Cal Stevenson game on Saturday?
I always knew a kid from Millville was the missing piece for a parade down Broad Street.
Right, exactly.
But it's not the guy we're thinking.
Nah, but I mean, what a story. I mean, every time the guy comes to the plate, they're shouting, Buddy. I mean, how does he compose himself in there? But Saturday.
He was at the playoff games last year as a fan.
Unbelievable.
Unreal.
But Saturday, the Cal Stevenson game. Remember a couple weeks ago when everybody was complaining at Thompson for not hitting for Cal Stevenson? This guy has come up with 2 clutch hits, and then the catch he makes in center field. I mean, this guy was having the day of, he should, showmanship. Go out on a high note.
Retire?
Stanza.
But he does make he's going to be in the playoff roster, is he not? You got to keep him on there.
I don't know, because Sosa is going to come back from the injured list, so who do you send down?
So is Hayes. Sosa and Hayes are coming back. So Sosa would replace Buddy Kennedy, you would imagine. And then Austin Hayes is coming back. I mean, should you? The different question. Wait, Sosa should replace Buddy Kennedy. Should he? Yes, he should. What kind of question is that?
Well, do you send down Weston Wilson?
Weston Wilson, I got to give him credit. He got a chance to face lefties the other day, and what did he do? Smoked a double. I mean, he had the only couple hits in the game.
So you would keep Wilson over Kennedy?
Oh, Wilson's definitely making the team.
Cody Clemens.
There's another guy. Cody Clemens. I mean, you got Sosa coming back, and you got Hayes coming back. Hayes has got to replace probably Cal Stevenson, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
So Stevenson, who just won you a game almost all by himself, and then he had to hit last week where he doubled into 2 runs. So that guy has had some key at-bats for you. So Hayes comes back. He probably replaces Stevenson. I imagine when Sosa comes back, it's between Buddy Kennedy and Clemens. Weston Wilson's going to be on the roster. He's a right-handed bat with power. They got to have somebody that can hit right-handed.
That's the negative against Cody, is that he's a lefty.
Cody Clemens. But you're saying, so I think Cody Clemens has had some key hits, but you're right. Him being left-handed, do you consider Buddy Kennedy?
I think you have to because of his positional versatility.
Well, Clemens has positional versatility as well. He plays first, second, third, outfield. I mean, Kennedy really plays less positions than Clemens does, so that bites you there.
The problem with Wilson is he only can play one position.
Well, and that's not – I mean, he only plays well at one position, but he plays second, he plays third, and he plays the 2 corner outfields. The one guy who
stinks
doesn't play –
at the infield.
Yeah, but the guy who plays the least positions is Kennedy. Of all those guys, of the Clemens, Wilson...
Because he doesn't play the outfield.
He doesn't play the outfield, right. He plays second and third. He doesn't play short. Wilson doesn't play short either, but Wilson plays second, and he plays third, and he plays the outfield. So Wilson would trump Kennedy for his positional versatility.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kennedy gets squeezed out, even though he's had some key moments, right? I mean...
Very key moments.
But guess what? You got the series against the Mets, then you got the series against, you got the Brewers series here, then the series against the Mets coming up. These guys still have a chance to kind of battle this out. And I would imagine that, I think Wilson, see the Hayes thing is weird. What do you do with him when he comes back?
He's been in and out of the lineup too many times.
Well, he's been hurt with this kidney problem. I mean,
kidney infection.
And do you even trust that he's like, hey, I'm going to bring him back and trust him at this stage of the season when he hasn't played? By the way, what's the setup tonight? I love the setup question.
Oh, I got this question last week.
Always. I love
Billy
to get
Marlins.
into minds of what happens. Okay, you got Monday Night Football and you got Phillies pennant race at the same time. Now, last week, you didn't even give the Friday night Eagles opener. You didn't give because they were playing the Marlins.
They were playing the Marlins. And that game was a blowout, by the way.
And you didn't give that one the time of day.
Nope.
Do you change that tonight?
I still don't think so. This is a big game for the Birds. It's Nick Foles night. Jason Kelsey's back at the link. You got all those factors. I'm still going to go Birds, main TV. I mean, I guess I'll check on the Phils, but not much.
You go flip or you go with like a device?
No, I'll go
You go
flip.
last channel?
I go flip.
No, so
Last
like
channel.
no laptop? No phone?
No laptop.
You have can you watch on your phone or laptop?
Yeah.
You have YouTube TV?
No.
Comcast?
I still go cable, yeah.
So you have the Comcast app.
Yeah, Comcast streaming.
Why
yeah.
don't you just put it on your laptop?
Listen,
Right on the side
I don't
there.
want to distract myself from what's really the focus tonight.
Well,
And that's the Eagles
just
game.
put it on the side. The game's in front of you, and then every so often you just kind of look over.
Again, I can't switch from baseball to football back and forth.
Oh.
It's too much of a difference.
Why?
Well, it's just baseball's very slow moving.
Yeah, but you just have it on the side.
Again, I go to a 3rd and 7 from the 45. You got to have the first down. That's intense for me. As opposed to a 2-2 count in the third, runner on,
You got to
2 outs.
I mean, come on. Now, let me ask you this question. Take us back to Thursday night World Series, and the Eagles played the Texans.
Yes.
Oh, God, yeah, I remember that.
How did you go?
Oh, I went World Series.
World Series got the main TV.
All the way.
Wow.
All the way.
I mean, this is Phillies Brewers. Josh, what's the standings right now?
Standings right now are Phillies are 4 games ahead of the Brewers for the 1 seed. They're 2 games ahead of the Dodgers.
4 games ahead of the Brewers. If the Brewers sweep you, you're only 1 game up on them.
But if you sweep the Brewers...
Exactly. That's why you got to watch the game tonight.
You got that first round bye.
I'm hoping, okay? This is what I'm hoping. Now, yesterday, Phillies were on at 1:30.
Walk off by JT, by the way.
Great ending. I had the game on my laptop.
Great ending.
I wanted to go outside on the porch. I got the 2 TVs outside on the porch. It was just a tad too warm for my liking. I wanted it to be just a little like tonight. I'll get that crisp air tonight, and I'll go outside. I'll have Phillies on the 1, Eagles on the other, Sound on the Birds.
Really quick, another factor here is the Phillies game first pitch is going to be about 30, 40 minutes before the Eagles game starts.
Yep. Now, you got to go Kelsey in the pregame, right?
You have to go Kelsey in the pregame. You have.
Does he drink a beer tonight on the set?
Did you watch him last week
100%.
about his shirt and he
come
delivered
on.
that bad word that you're not supposed to say on TV?
Right. Does he pound a beer tonight on the set?
100%.
100%. Thank
Yes.
you.
Van Pelt even confirmed it when he was talking to John Clark about it.
Did
He's like, I anticipate Jason Kelsey is going to have at least 1 drink during this pregame show.
I got a weird email today from ESPN regarding Kelsey.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I'll read it. Let me pull it up here. By the way, I got a gripe, too, from this weekend.
You have a great gripe, actually.
Don't remind me to make sure I don't forget the gripe.
I won't let you forget.
All right. Where'd that email go?
Kelsey has an interview tonight with Jalen Hurts, too. Make sure you watch
Yeah,
that.
we got some audio.
Yeah, I got
great.
some audio. It's about 10 minutes long. Some of the answers are very... If anyone's ever listened to Jalen Hurts talk before, there's some real classic Jalen Hurts isms.
He talks about the tush push
Kelsey hates it.
Oh,
on who hates it and who doesn't. All right? I think Josh just ruined the tease with that one. He gave that
It's all
one
over
away.
social media.
Well, you don't look at social media every day. I had to tell you about the interview. Fair?
Ish.
All right, here's the email I got. It says, good morning.
Good morning.
Flagging that Jason Kelsey will be joining Buck and Aikman in ESPN's Monday Night Football broadcast booth during the 3rd quarter of tonight's game.
in the booth. Wow.
Now, it says flagging. Does that mean they had it scheduled and they're now saying no, or that they're just alerting me?
I think it's an alert. Yeah.
Yep. All right, so Buck and Aikman tonight, 3rd quarter with Jason Kelsey in the booth.
He's going to be tipsy.
You can't have a beer. You can't have a beer on the set
he's
then.
working.
So now do you think he will have a beer
This
tonight?
isn't Seattle City in the summertime. This is Monday
Come
Night
on, this is the
Football.
pregame. They moved the pregame to Xfinity Live for this reason. Sports Pass Live, 97.3 ESPN. All right, we're live at the Fanatics Sportsbook. By the way, where was my invite? Jay-Z was here yesterday. Michael Rubin was here yesterday.
Jalen Rose.
Who else?
Jalen Rose, Justin Thomas, 2-time major champion.
He made the first bet.
Right over there.
Yep,
Right over there.
$100 on
Wow.
Alabama to win the national championship. You like that bet?
Wow.
Nope.
You don't like that bet.
Don't like that bet.
All
They
right.
struggled over the weekend.
Hey, your voice can be heard. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Number one, who has to have the big game tonight? Who has to have the big game tonight with A.J. Brown out? Number two, does Brown being out change the way you look at this game? And the Phillies tonight against the Brewers. We're going to get into it. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com, joins me next on the Sports Bash.
This
podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar. I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ Bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
Mike Gill
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
2:32 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live video on the X platform at Mike Gill Show. Use the hashtag SB Live. I want to tell you about some unbeatable lease offers from my friend Rocco at Key Acura of Atlantic City. Now through September 30th, you can drive a 2025 Integra for just $399 a month with $29.95 down. If you need more room, 2024 RDX all-wheel drive is yours for $393 a month with $49.95 down. Visit Key Acura of Atlantic City, Tilt Road, EHT, the small but friendly dealer. See dealer for details. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Big night for the Phils, big night for the Eagles. We'll start with, let's go with the Eagles first here, because A.J. Brown being out, Mike, does that change the dynamics of this game for you or not all that much?
Well, it definitely changes them for me, because I think now, without him in the lineup, you're taking away a major weapon, and I think it allows the Falcons to maybe concentrate more on stopping Saquon Barkley or focusing more attention on Saquon Barkley. So, yeah, I think it's a big loss for the Eagles.
You know, is it a big enough loss to where you might change your mind on how the outcome of this game ends up going?
You know, maybe. I'm curious to see this game tonight just based off what happened yesterday in the league, because I think if the Eagles go out there and they're impressive today and they're off to a 2-0 start, and obviously it's very early, but we judge people on a week-to-week basis here, you could say the Eagles are, you know, at the top of the NFC with an impressive performance tonight, considering that the Lions lost yesterday, considering that the 49ers lost yesterday, considering that the Packers won with their backup quarterback. So really good opportunity here for the Eagles to kind of establish themselves early in the season. And at the same point, from the Atlanta perspective, I mean, they've got, you know, Kirk Cousins. They've got some weapons out there. They came into the season with some high hopes, and they don't want to go 0-2. And, you know, maybe they just struggled against what is really a great Steelers defense in week 1. So I have no feeling about the game, but I'm very interested to see how it plays out.
All right, a couple things as we're 2 weeks in, you know, that 0-2, 2-0. We always kind of look at those teams now. Some crazy things. Let's look in the NFC real quick, Mike McGarry. Minnesota 2-0. Do you believe in them?
You know, I've always been a Sam Darnold guy. You know, I'm a big USC guy. I saw Sam Darnold play live in college. I thought he was tremendous. I thought he was tremendous at USC. I think obviously having the wide receiver hurt now kind of hurts them big time. But I'm a believer in Sam Darnold. So, you know, when I say I believe in him, do I think Minnesota can win, you know, 8, 9, 10 games and be a factor, you know, get into the playoffs, so be one of the teams to get in the playoffs? If that's what we're saying by believing, we're not talking Super Bowl here, I'll believe in the Vikings.
Yeah, maybe not Super Bowl contenders, but teams that you think are way better than we gave them credit for. New Orleans, 2-0. They go to Dallas and bomb the Cowboys.
Yeah, very interesting game. And again, I think they have the Eagles next week. So I'll reserve some judgment on New Orleans till maybe next week. But I think, interesting score yesterday that they blasted the Cowboys after the way the Cowboys looked the opening week of the season.
All right, Tampa Bay's 2-0. You buying them?
Yeah. I'll buy Tampa Bay. I'll buy Tampa Bay. I mean, this is a team that was in the playoffs last year. This is a team that has talent. This is a team that gave Detroit a tough time in the playoffs last year, and they were up to a 2-0 start this year. So, yeah, I'll buy on Tampa Bay. Again, could they be a division winner? Could they be a playoff team and maybe host a playoff game? Yeah, I'll buy on Tampa to that level.
All right, last one in the NFC is Seattle. 2-0. Are you in or out on them?
I'm in on them. I like Seattle, a lot of weapons, and I like Geno Smith. He's quietly revived his career out there. I think a new coach out there has made a big difference for them. So, again, beating the Patriots, the team that's probably better than we think they are, going into the season in overtime. They get the win over Denver in week 1. I'm going to buy in on Seattle. I thought they were going to be a pretty good team last year and kind of took a step backwards for a variety of reasons. I think they got some new blood with a new coach. They've got talent at the skill positions. They've got wide receivers out there that are good players. So I'll buy in on Seattle, especially I'll buy in when the Rams are 0-2 and the 49ers are 1-1.
All right, a couple 0-2s. You in or out? Baltimore.
Boy, this is a tough one because you don't want to go out on Lamar, but I'm going to be out on them. I just think there's just something missing there that just prevents them. And even when they're good in the regular season, they just can't seem to get over the hump in the playoffs there. So I'm going to go out on Baltimore.
You lose at home against the Raiders after the week before, right? I mean,
right.
And by the way, Derrick Henry, 18 for 84 and a touchdown. It wasn't like they didn't get him involved yesterday. They did. The other team, Cincinnati, 0-2. Are they out?
I am out on them, although it's probably fair to say that one of those teams is going to rally, right? Cincinnati or Baltimore, one of those teams is going to rally and have the season we thought they would have had, and one's going to go in the opposite direction. What worries me about Cincinnati is the quarterback. I mean, although Mike Gesicki, tight end from Southern Regional, had a great game yesterday, more than 90 yards receiving. Burrows looked better yesterday than he did in week 1, but that wrist worries me, and just his ability to consistently throw the football and stay healthy. So, yeah, maybe I'll go 50-50 on Baltimore or Cincinnati. Say one of those teams is going to recover from this 0-2 start and be the team we thought they were going to be, and one is not.
All right, Mike McGarry for the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Phillies take 2 out of 3. They pretty much put the Mets out of their misery for the East, at least. Now the Mets and the Braves, they're tied for the wild card. But what did the weekend for the Phillies mean for them?
Well, I thought it was a huge weekend for them. And a sign that this team is peaking and heading in the right direction. There were a lot of positive signs. First of all, to lose the game they lost Friday night, then they come back and respond, rally for wins Saturday and Sunday. And I thought, I wasn't at Saturday's game, but I followed it. I was at yesterday's game. I thought yesterday's game, playoff-like intensity, 44,000 fans. As JT Realmuto said after the game, that's the type of game you got to win in the playoffs against that type of opponent. And I just think the Phillies, I think they're 21-9 in the last 30 games. They've set themselves up now. They're going to be the number 1 seed in the National League, and they're probably going to be facing the winner of the Padres Diamondbacks wild card series in the division series, which is a little scary.
I don't like that matchup.
And San Diego scare me a little bit.
I don't like that matchup, but you do have the Brewers for 3 and the Mets for 4. So the Phillies aren't like through the wilderness just quite yet, even though the magic numbers are starting to look, a little bit more attractive.
Yeah, I think they're 3 or 4 up on the Brewers for that second seed. Plus, they got to just win one game in Milwaukee to win the season series because they swept the Brewers early in the season. And I think they 2 up on the Dodgers, but it's really a 3-game lead because they have the series there. So, I would suspect that they probably clinch the division. Thursday at the earliest, most likely either Friday or Saturday. And then they've made it clear that they're going to keep their foot on the gas pedal to try to get that home field advantage, you know?
And they need to, because if they're going to get the home field, you're not going to play that wild card round. And we've seen what happened to teams when they don't play. We'll talk more about that. Obviously, it gets closer. I want to get some questions and thoughts from you on the Cal Stevenson game Saturday. I don't know if there's a spot on the roster for him on the playoffs, but, man, they're going to have some roster decision. When Austin Hayes is back, who goes?
Yeah, that's a good question. And first of all,
Sosa, by the way, and Sosa when he's back.
Right. You know, Sosa could probably come back on Tuesday. Unfortunately for Millville's Buddy Kennedy, I would say he's probably connected to Sosa, and Cal Stevenson is probably connected to Austin Hayes. But when Austin Hayes comes back, to me, is an open-minded question right now. You know, and I think that's just one of the great things about the Phillies over this period is, you know, the contributions of these AAA guys, Weston Wilson, Cal Stevenson, Buddy Kennedy yesterday. I mean, I said to Buddy Kennedy after yesterday's game, if I had told you before the season that you'd be getting big hits in September for the team you grew up rooting for and helping them, you know, win a division, what would you have said? And he said, you know, I wouldn't have believed it at all. A really great moment yesterday for Buddy Kennedy with that 8th inning double. The contribution of those guys, the AAA guys who have come up and filled in. You know, Tyler Phillips even had a couple good starts there out of AAA. It's really been remarkable, and it's kind of what pushed the Phillies over the top here.
The Cal Stevenson game, I mean, it's funny because a couple weeks ago, people were blasting Rob Thompson for not hitting for him in one of those games. You remember that? Now he's had 2 huge clutch hits in the last 3 weeks here, or 2 weeks here. Stevenson, and then the catch he makes on Saturday. But Kennedy has come up with some big hits, and those 2 guys are probably going to be the guys who are the odd guys out.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but it's moments that they'll never, you know, forget. And you know, what Rob Thompson said the other day really is true. He said it takes a village. It takes more than just the 26 guys on your roster to get through a 162-game baseball season. And you know, Buddy Kennedy will, you know, the rest of his life, he will have that moment, you know, of him standing at second base doing the little shimmy while 44,000 fans chant, Buddy, Buddy. In fact, Buddy made me laugh after the game. He said Nick Castellanos is taking to greeting him when Buddy walks in the clubhouse. Nick Castellanos greets him with Buddy, Buddy chants, basically. So it really is, it's really been a marvelous, you know, couple of weeks for Buddy Kennedy and all those AAA guys. And it's kind of what every successful baseball team needs. And it makes the Phillies appealing. Like, who can't root for a Buddy Kennedy? Who can't root for Cal Stevenson, these kind of career minor leaguers that are getting a chance and getting their moment in the sun?
Yeah, big game tonight for Ranger Suarez, too, though, Mike. I mean, this is one of those where you're coming down to the wire. You got to start thinking about what do you do with that pitching rotation? And do you think Sanchez pitch him at home as opposed to on the road? His home splits are way different from his road splits. You got Sanchez kind of leaking oil here. This is a big one tonight.
Yeah, this is a big start for Ranger Suarez. 12 hits allowed in his last outing. The outing before that, his velocity was down 2 to 3 miles an hour. I'm very interested to see what he looks like tonight on the mound, you know, because he's one of the big concerns right now. And right now I don't think there's any question that, you know, even if Ranger were to pitch well the last 2 weeks of the season, he would be the number 4 starter. You've got to put Christopher Sanchez at least at that 3rd spot on the rotation. The question right now is, do you move him up to the number 2 slot so he pitches at home and save Nola for Game 3 on the road? There was a lot of talk yesterday after the game about Sanchez's splits. They are markedly better at Citizens Bank Park than they are on the road. Rob Thompson and JT Realmuto said they don't really see any difference in the stuff. They have no reason for it, you know, no specific reason for it. They don't think it's anything, you know, that he's doing or something like that. It's just maybe the way it's played out this season. But right now, at the very least, Christopher Sanchez is starting Game 3 of the division series.
He's Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Phillies, Brewers, they start a 3-game series tonight. Eagles and the Falcons, and you can hear that game on 97.3 ESPN. By the way, this weekend we'll have the Phillies and the Mets on Saturday and on Sunday Night Baseball. You can listen to both games on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Mike, we'll talk to you on Wednesday.
All right, we'll see you down the road, Mike. Thanks.
There's Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. By the way, the lineup for the Manning Cast is out tonight. You ready for this? You a Manning Cast guy at all? You go Manning Cast for any of these broadcasts?
No, I'm more Joe Buck, Troy Aikman.
You know, the first year I was Manning Cast.
Me too, yeah.
And then I made the switch. You got Miles Teller tonight.
Okay.
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan, another Philly guy.
And Bill Belichick.
Whoa.
Bill Belichick is the first guest, then Miles Teller, then Matt Ryan.
Now that might be worth it. The Manning brothers interviewing and kind of dissecting the game with Belichick.
Well, Belichick's on every week.
Right.
But then, two of the three Manning Cast guests have been guests of the Sports Bash.
Oh, really? Oh, Super Bowl.
Miles Teller. And I think
Matty
Miles
Ice.
Teller was on in Miami or Atlanta, one of those two. Miami, Josh tells me. And Matt Ryan was on. Did you get Matt Ryan on?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Who got Matt Ryan on? Somebody knew Matt Ryan. Went to high school with him or something.
I still go Buck and Aikman, though.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right. I got a beef with something this weekend. Now, I'm not going to call them out by name, but I'm a little annoyed by this. By the way, shout out Phil. Heading to the tailgate, we'll be celebrating and toasting Kevin Red Dog, as tonight is his 300th consecutive Eagles game attended.
Wow.
300.
Consecutive.
He says, I have never attended all home games in a season ever. He's at 300.
Somebody do the math. What year does that date back to? That's what I want to know.
Figure it out.
Josh.
All right, I got beef with something on the other side. Stick around. More Sports Bash coming up on 97.3 ESPN.
This Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Tailgates have begun. See the guy tailgating at 5:30 this morning?
I don't think he's going to make it to halftime. I think he's going to miss Nick Foles' ceremony.
Unbelievable. Sports Bash live at the Fanatic Sportsbook at the Gallery Bar Booking Games. So I got a little beef. Okay? Now, I got taken for a ride Saturday.
Yeah, you did.
So, I'm not going to get real specific about things because, I don't want to call anybody out. I walk into a pizza shop. I'm with my girlfriend's son. I said, how many slices do you want? He says 3. I said, all right, 3 slices for him. I'll take 2 and then 1 for my girlfriend.
That's a big appetite, by the way. 3 slices ain't no joke.
Right. I was like, you really want 3? Yeah, 3. I
Usually
said, right.
2 is the call.
Right, 2. I went 2. I got her 1. 6 slices. Now, normally, 6 slices. What are you thinking? $3 a slice? Maybe on the high end?
I would say probably in between 3 and 4.
Okay. So they put the slices in the brick oven. And they don't tell me, hey, do you just want to get a pie? Because it'll be X amount of dollars. They hand me the pizza with the slices in the box. The girl proceeds to tell me that'll be $44 for 6 slices of pizza. Now, is it the duty of the pizza shop to tell me, why don't you just get a pie? It'll be cheaper.
100%.
I would also maybe say it's the duty of the customer to say to themselves,
I got the young man with
we're
me.
getting
He
6
asked
slices, maybe we should just get a whole pie.
Listen, he was with me. He said 3. He threw me off with the 3, and I said, I want to get just 6 slices. You would think they would say, sir, you just want to get a pie.
It would have been
cheaper.
nice. It would have been nice.
Is it not the duty of the pizza place to look out for somebody and say, look, I went online to their website to see how much a large pie costs.
How much is it?
$20.
Wow.
I got taken for $24.
You could have had 2 more slices for $20.
Could have got 2
less.
pizzas.
Right, yeah. 16.
Now, just in the future, pizza shop. If it's cheaper to get the whole pie, I think it's your duty to tell us. Do you not agree? 609-403-0973. I don't think I'm in the wrong on this one. McMullen's up next.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
On first down. This time it goes and right up the middle for a touchdown goes Saquon Barkley, his second touchdown of the game. One by air and one on the ground.
Oh, boy, did they part the sea that time.
Might need to hear a lot of that tonight. Merrill and Mike on the call. They'll be on the call tonight, Eagles and the Falcons on Monday Night Football. Jason Kelce going to be on the Monday Night Football broadcast in the third quarter as well. Got a lot of reaction to the pizza story, by the way. I got to give you one quick thing to the pizza story. I got up at 5:30. By the time I got to the pizza thing, it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was just like, dude, I just want the pizza. Let's go. So, yes, I could be in the wrong a little bit, but still. I got a lot of text message reaction we'll get to coming up in just a little bit. Right now, John McMullen, Birds 365. Weekday mornings at 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Now, John, we talked on Friday, and we did a little buy or sell. And one of the buy or sells was, will A.J. Brown get over 100 yards for the second consecutive week? It would have been the first time an Eagles wide receiver would go back-to-back 100-yard games in his first 2 games of the year since 2013, Deshaun Jackson. But that will not happen because A.J. Brown has been ruled out. What is the impact of no A.J. Brown? Is the one thing, John, we talked about in training camp, that what happens if Brown or Smith do not play? Well, in week 2, we will find out. What do you think this team will look like without A.J.?
Yeah, completely different. I mean, we've already seen it. If you think about it from a 2021 perspective, sometimes the offense was good. Sometimes it wasn't that good. A.J. Brown shows up and things take off in 2022. And even last year, I think there's this disconnect, a little bit of revision at the end of last season. Obviously, it was disappointing, but there were pockets there. I think people forget where the offense was pretty good. I think it was in week 16 and week 17. They were a top 5 offense, but by obviously every metric. In the first Giants game and the Arizona game, they just happened to lose the Arizona game because of defensive issues. And then week 18, A.J. Brown gets hurts his knee in the first quarter against the Giants, and that's it. I mean, literally, the offense stopped for the rest of that game and the playoff game in Tampa Bay. It is not the same team when he is not on the field, and they're going to have to adjust and adjust accordingly. Now, I do think they're better equipped to handle things with Saquon Barkley, and even Jahan Dotson has a little bit of an upgrade over what they were dealing with last season at that third receiver spot. But, yeah, they're not the same team when he's not out there. And we've already seen it.
We have seen it, and that was last year in the playoffs against Tampa Bay. Is it Dotson that gets outside? Is it somebody else that goes to the outside? Is Paris Campbell elevated tonight? How do you think they replace him on the outside? I mean, Dotson had no catches. I think 1 target last week. Still kind of learning the offense. Do you ask him to change positions already, or does he stay with where he's been comfortable and someone else takes over the Brown role? How's that play out tonight?
No, it's going to be Dotson getting the vast majority of reps. And I think, DeMonte played so much in the slot. That's one thing about Kellen Moore. He's moving guys around, so everybody's got to play everywhere. And he played more outside in Washington than he played inside, which I think many people don't realize. So he's comfortable doing it, and he's an upgrade certainly over what they had before they got him. But, I mean, he's just not – it's not an insult to Jahan Dotson. You're talking about one of the best 5 or so receivers in football, two 1,400-yard seasons back-to-back. Eagles fans haven't seen this production at wide receiver in a very long time in this mentality. You mentioned Deshaun a little bit. He had that explosion, but he wasn't nearly as well-rounded a receiver as A.J. Brown. Yeah, I mean, you might have to go back to the years of Tommy McDonald in a different era of football to talk about somebody who's had this kind of impact as a receiver on their offense. But, but that's not the goal. The goal is not to replace A.J. Brown. You don't replace players like that. The goal is to persevere. And they probably have to play a different way and maybe rely more on Saquon Barkley in the running game. Maybe that helps and impacts. And, guys like Dotson have to step up. I do expect to see Paris Campbell somehow. Now, they have to elevate Nick Yates to be the backup center. They have to elevate, in theory, E.J. Jenkins to be a third tight end. So can't elevate three, so they might have to make a roster move to get Campbell up. I do expect to see him. Johnny Wilson's also dealing with a hamstring injury. He might not play, so they need But even if Wilson does play, they need Paris Campbell probably to persevere, as I said. So you got to play differently when you lose players like that, and it happens to everybody. And happened to the Eagles last year at the end of the season. They weren't able to persevere. We'll see if Saquon's presence can, and it should help the Eagles do things like that and toggle a little bit back and forth a little bit better than they did last year. But one of the when you're that late of a scratch, he hurt his hamstring in Friday's practice. Game plan day this week was Wednesday. So the entire original game plan was already in the can with A.J. Brown, and now Kellen Moore's got to rework that whole thing. Because you're not just going to, okay, Jahan Dotson, you do what A.J. does. If he does that, the Eagles are probably in trouble.
Exactly. And then we're talking with John McMullen from Birds 365, Eagles and Falcons tonight. No A.J. Brown. You mentioned Johnny Wilson, too. Not a big part of the offense, but obviously that's another receiver that was active last week. You said Paris Campbell. I don't know. You expect Britton Covey to be a part of the offense tonight, or is this more of a Saquon Barkley game?
I do think, that's the way I would go about it if I were Kellen Moore, and lean more on the running game. And see, obviously you have to see Raheem Morris is going to be focused on that as well. He sees what's going on. He's a defensive-minded coach, so he might show up and say, I'm going to take the run away and force you to beat me with Jahan Dotson and Paris Campbell and Britton Covey. That might be the smart way for him to go. So all of a sudden, if you start seeing heavy boxes and you're not effective running the game, that's sort of the give and take in the chess match. You can see we talk a lot, you and I, about, what do you do if you're opposing defensive coordinator when AJ's there with Devontae and Saquon and Dallas, and it's pick your poison. All of a sudden, without him, you kind of can pick a little bit easier. It's not to say Devontae can't beat you or Dallas can't beat you or Saquon, but it does make it a heck of a lot easier when A.J. Brown's not there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, John, I know that every week is, a big game for everybody. You want to get to 2-0 and get that start. But how much bigger of a game has this become, knowing what New Orleans did and what Tampa has done? All of a sudden, this stretch of NFC South games that you had in the beginning of the season, has it changed a little bit?
Well, yeah, New Orleans looks really good. They look tremendous. Dallas, which it's so early to figure out who's really good, who's a mirage. Dallas looked like the best defense in the NFL in week one, and then they're giving up a 40 spot to New Orleans. Then you start thinking about New Orleans and saying, oh, they beat Carolina, which isn't that great, but they beat Dallas on the road. Are they going to be relevant?
Quarterback, by the way.
Yeah, and they needed to. He's lost total confidence. These young quarterbacks, that's another. We need another show to talk. These guys aren't ready to play at all. And, you're just doing them a disservice. And that's not only Bryce Young, who's in his second year, but if you saw Caleb Williams last night, I was starting to feel sorry for him. He didn't know what to do, and he was getting hit and pressured, and it was ugly. So, it's and it's one of these things where all of a sudden the Derek Carrs of the world who know how to play the position, I think you'll see the same with Andy Dalton a little bit. At least you can start to look like an offense. Sam Darnold, who sat and learned and got disparaged, and all of a sudden he looks like he knows how to play the position. And these young guys don't. So, that's half the battle, I think.
Yeah. Well, listen, I agree with you. I talked about it actually on Friday that, these guys get rushed into playing. They might be talented enough to play in this league, but they're not ready for the speed, especially when you're not on a team that's very good. Listen, I agree with what you're saying. If you looked at Caleb Williams last night, you're looking at a guy who was lost. He just had no idea. And he's like, look, all these pump fakes and little moves and running around I used to do in college, it's not working. I'm getting my ass kicked back here. This guy had the audacity to ask for ownership in a team. So guess what?
It ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the way. And these coaches, like, Dave Canales, this is probably his only chance. So he's got to make a move. He's got to do something. He's got to get at least somebody in there who can play and run the operation properly. And who knows? It's an aging quarterback. But I guarantee you they look more competitive simply because they have a guy who understands how to play the position. But I look at some of these guys, and Sam would be the best indication of that. He was a top 5 pick or whatever, and failed with the Jets that were a bad team at the time. And, then he went to Carolina, and he got a year under Kyle Shanahan, and all of a sudden people forget about him and say, well, he stinks. And then he shows up, and he knows how to play the position a little bit. And it's only 2 games, but he looks good. And it might be a mirage, but I guarantee, you know what? If in a weird way, if J.J. McCarthy doesn't get hurt, that team's probably 0-2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they're 2-0 beating the 49ers.
Yeah, you had the 49ers lose, you had Detroit lose, you had Dallas lose. Philadelphia's got to be on high alert tonight with the Falcons coming in. And now, no A.J. Brown. I want to get your thoughts on Jalen Hurts and his role tonight without A.J. Brown. Does he have to kind of elevate and carry this team, or do you not look at him as that type of guy?
I don't look at him as that type of guy right now. And by that, I mean, he's struggling a little bit with the turnovers and with the decision-making, and maybe some of the confidence a little bit shaken a little. Not that he can't recover, because you see him in game. He's got that ability to forget about bad plays and keep fighting to the end, as he did against Green Bay. But I don't want this turnover thing to snowball. So the last thing I want him thinking is, I got to go make a play. And that's why I think I got to lean on Saquon Barkley if I'm Kellen Moore in this particular game, if you can. And again, if you can stop the running game with anybody if you want to. If you put enough people up front and say, all right, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to force you to throw the football. NFL teams can do that. So he might show up and do that, and it'll have to be Jalen. I don't think he'll do that because Devontae's still a really good player. Dallas is still a really good player. So you have to see how Atlanta kind of handles things. But the last thing I want him to do is press and start throwing interceptions, because once guys lose a little bit of confidence and the snowball starts rolling down the hill, it can get ugly.
Yeah, I guess I said before, I don't know if it's a knock on Jalen Hurts, but he's not the kind of guy for me, that you just put on another team and that team's all of a sudden just better because Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. I do think there is, he's got great weapons and talent around him. That doesn't diminish the plays that he has made and the role that he's had with this team, but he's not the kind of guy that just, hey, you put him in Vegas and all of a sudden that team's, 13-4.
No, but I don't think anybody is really.
Yeah, exactly.
Patrick Mahomes, as good as he is, if you put him on Carolina, he might go win 7 games, but he's not winning Super Bowls. Everybody needs some help. That's one of those, I don't even know if you want to use the term insults, but when you say, well, he's got good supporting cast. Well, so does Brock Purdy. Why do you think Brock Purdy's played so well early in his career? Mm-hmm. Because he's I mean, come on. If you put him on another team, it would get ugly real quick. A poor team. So that's everybody. Jared Goff, when he first got to Detroit, I don't know, they lost their first. He was terrible. They had nothing. And all of a sudden, they start getting better and better, and they start adding talent, and he looks good enough to get that massive contract. It's everybody. It's every quarterback. You don't win by yourself. There's a couple guys who seem like they could do it, but even somebody like Tom Brady, he'll admit all the time, you need a team. It's not just about one guy.
All right, Eagles and the Falcons tonight. You can listen to the game on 97.3 ESPN. It's Merrill Reese, Mike Quick on the call. We'll see. Saquon Barkley, is it a Dallas Goedert night? Is this Dotson kind of saying hello to the Eagles fans? Smith, we'll see what this offense looks like. No A.J. Brown. He has been ruled out for the game already. The defense, who has the challenge of Kyle Pitts tonight?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I obviously, Kyle's never really, I think he's a Philly kid, so I think, a lot of Eagles fans wanted him at the time back in that draft, and certainly as high he was picked. He's never sort of lived up to that billing. But he's a very good receiver, not more of a glorified king-size receiver than an old-school tight end. He's tough to deal with. You almost have to put a safety on him because the linebacker's not going to be able to deal with him. But at the same time, obviously, Vic's going to throw a lot of coverage, a lot of different looks, a lot of schemes, and there are times the linebackers will be responsible for him. But overall, you better keep a safety on him. But I'm more concerned about Drake London from the fact that they weren't able to get him the ball, Mike, in week one. And maybe it's just Kirk Cousins not healthy, but we've seen this. If you go back to when the Eagles opened the season against Detroit, AJ had a bunch of catches. Devontae had 0. The next week they threw it to Devontae the first 2 plays of the game, and he had a bunch of receptions. Look at Arizona. They couldn't get Marvin Harrison Jr. involved week 1. All of a sudden they're trying to get him the football. Those corrections, they're going to try to get Drake London the ball.
All right, well, it's all going to happen tonight on 97.3 ESPN. John McMullen, who wins and why?
I do think the Eagles find a way to win the game, mainly because I think Kirk Cousins shouldn't even be playing. He's not healthy, clearly. Certainly as a guy, we just talked about the young quarterback, he knows how to play the position better than most, but 36 years old, he tore that Achilles in late October last year. It was really quick to get him back, and clearly week 1 he wasn't himself. So I think they're very limited from that standpoint. And so you talk about losing A.J. Brown. Well, as bad as that is, I'd rather have my quarterback, and I'm not sure their quarterback is 100%. So I think the Eagles will find a way to win. It'll probably be a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be, but I'm giving them 27-23 win, somewhere around there.
27-23. By the way, so tonight, who's the offensive guy tomorrow? Who's the guy on offense we're talking about with no Brown?
Probably Devontae.
All right. I like it. Hey, Devontae Smith, he underappreciated sometimes, but I thought he was key in the game last week. We'll see if he can be a big guy in the Monday Night Football game tonight. John McMullen will have reaction tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
I'm making one guarantee. Bryce Huff will get a sack.
Oh, Bryce Huff sack. Get that in your Bet365 app or whatever sports book you're using right here. We're at the Fanatic Sportsbook at the Gallery. You want to put? I don't know. Can you do player prop bets at the on site here? I don't know about that. I'll have to find that out. But we're at the Fanatic Sportsbook at the Gallery, bar, book, and games. Bryce Huff sack tonight for the player prop. That's John McMullen's guarantee. And you can listen to that game on 97.3 ESPN. John will have reaction tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. on Birds 365 on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. All right, John, we'll talk to you.
All right, thanks, Mike.
He's back tomorrow at 3 here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, he's brought to you by Boardwalk Honda. Shop their lineup of new pre-owned and certified pre-owned Hondas online, boardwalkhonda.com. So we got a lot of text messages coming in on the pizza.
Uh-oh.
Now, I will say, this guy said, I would be more upset at the price per slice. Damn.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Somebody, it's about $7 a slice.
For just a slice of pizza. I mean, just a standard slice of pizza. Nothing special.
It was nothing special. I can understand if at the end of it I was like, you know what, $44, but this pizza was off the board.
Right. It's not straight from Italy. It's straight from the oven in Sea Isle City. Got it.
A couple other text messages on the pizza. Gil, you paid $7 a slice, give or take. They're absolutely in the wrong. Wish you would have given us their name to make sure we never go there. Now, I didn't even give the city. You just gave that up.
Right, yeah. I did give that up.
It's not fair.
I didn't even pull that flub.
It's not fair for me.
That's usually a Josh flub.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. It's not fair. I mean, if you're following me on social media, you can kind of see where I was.
Oh, well, then there you go.
Well, this weekend. I don't, not at the place. Russ from Cape May says, I think it's just too much consumer awareness as it would be an obligation for the worker or proprietor or whoever is waiting on you to actually mention that they could, basically say, hey, do you want to get the pie?
Now, the workers was it just a high school kid or college kid?
It was a mix.
So do they have the wherewithal
here's what happens,
to bring that up to you? The experience, the wherewithal.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You should. Hey, you're getting 6 slices. Do you just want a pie? It's cheaper.
Yeah.
Put it this way. It's my fault because I got up a little too early. I was tired. I got her son with me. He threw me off with the 3 slices. And I just, and they're throwing the slices in the oven, heating them up, and then they give me the box, $44. I was like, $44?
Must be a great box.
Yeah, that's an expensive box.
Yeah. And I'm getting blasted with these text messages. Now, this guy says, I agree 100%. They should inform the customer the better deal is just to buy a pie. However, let's be honest. Once you order anything more than 4 slices, it's common sense to just say to yourself, perhaps I'll just grab a pie and take the leftovers home.
That's what I was saying. If you're going to get 6 slices, you got to say to yourself, oh, might as well just get a pie.
I did think about it, but, you're in line. There's a lot of people. Just kind of like, come on, I got to go. I'm the kind of guy, I don't want to wait for the pie. I don't want to wait for the slice to heat up. So I'm like, I don't need to heat it. Just give it to me.
Oh, you'll do cold? Just sit on the shelf?
Yep.
Wow.
I don't feel like waiting for it.
That's interesting.
Because then you get it, it's too hot. It burns the roof of your mouth.
Cold pizza is the real definition of good pizza, though.
It's not cold pizza. It's like...
It's just sitting there pizza.
Sitting there pizza. It's not like in the refrigerator from the night before pizza. Right. Like my girlfriend likes cold pizza the next day.
She's a smart woman.
Yeah, I don't mind it. But this is like sitting out pizza. No pizza's worth $44.
No.
I don't care if you gave me two pies. Wouldn't even have been $44. Appreciate the feedback. 609-403-0973.
But now you know. Now you know next time it was a learning experience.
Yeah. Any toppings on those slices? All plain.
That's a good question by that gentleman.
All plain.
Yeah, good question.
I mean, as if I got pepperoni.
Your caviar.
I could have justified the $44 expenditure for 6 slices of pizza.
Anchovies.
A $1 per topping.
Whatever happened, you'd be on the Ocean City Boardwalk, and you'd be right around 11 o'clock at night, and all the pizza shops were $1 a slice.
Yep. I remember that well.
Can't we get back to those times?
Nope. Not in
all right,
this
when we come back, former Atlanta Falcon running back, Ogie Mahaley. Ovie Mahaley played for the Falcons. I remember Ovie. Fullback. The fullback is no longer a part of all the offenses, but he's starting to make a comeback. You saw him in the Saints game yesterday. You see the 49ers use him. What kind of offense should we expect from Bijan Robinson and the Falcons? We'll talk to the host of Believe in Falcons, Ovie Mahaley, next here on the Sports Bash, live on 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to the Sport.
This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ Bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
With Mike Gill.
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
On 97.3 ESPN.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live video on the X platform, at Mike Gill Show. We're at the Fanatics Sportsbook at the Gallery, Bar, Book, and Games. You know, Lenny Kravitz is playing here.
This place is beautiful, by the way.
You ever been here?
Yeah, but this is a new design.
Oh, so the last time you were here, they did this I think before last football season.
Right. They got TVs all over the place.
This place is awesome.
Right.
I can't even imagine, Pete G, my on-site producer, you and I go to Clearwater together.
That's right.
For the NCAA tournament.
That's right.
Can you imagine watching those games here?
I wouldn't know where to look.
I mean, it's just overwhelming.
It is.
All right. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. The text board is on fire, by the way. Mike, this is on you. Would you go to Dunkin' Donuts and get 9 donuts? Just get the dozen, in your case, the whole pie.
That's a good response right there.
Jeez.
He breaks it down for you like that with donuts.
Mike, bring the pizza box back. Maybe you'll get a free refill. It's not a bad idea. Hey, you charged me $44 for 6 slices. Can you give me the extra for the whole pie so I can justify what I just paid?
Yeah.
Remind me to never order the MG special. Not bad. Couple points for that guy. It's got to be heated up pizza. Who wants warm temperature pizza?
Yeah.
I don't prefer warm temperature pizza. I also don't want to wait.
But the whole reason to wait is to get the good pizza, is to get the quality of it.
I agree.
You got to pay to play sometimes.
I agree, but sometimes I just don't want to wait. I'm like, I don't have the time. I don't feel like waiting. I don't need it to be burning the roof of my mouth.
Well, then go to the grocery store and get yourself a frozen pizza.
Well, a lot of times if you're just going to a place, you're just walking in just to grab a slice because you're hungry. You're like, I just got to be quick. I want to go fast. You know what I'm saying?
Pizza's the one food you can get away with, I guess, doing that.
Sure. Like a meat.
You can't do that with French fries. I mean, you can't be sitting.
Like no one has perfected the delivery of a French fry.
It gets too soggy. It's just gets cold.
Soggy, cold, all that stuff. So, can't do it. Like, you only end up unhappy with the fries.
Yeah.
If you order French fries out.
It doesn't matter where the fries
delivery.
come from. Right. Fast food or
you can have the best French fry place in the world. They just can't get them to you without being soggy. And you get the water. Like sometimes the water's dripping because of the condensation. Yeah. Out on the delivery of the fry. Mike, you're right down the street from some of the best pizza. Yeah. I wasn't there that day, man. I'm sorry. You're telling me where to go in Summers Point. I wasn't in Summers Point, Andrew. I'm on the eternal search for a crispy pizza. I want a crispy pizza. We have good pizza, but I need something different. I'm on the eternal search for something different.
I don't think you're going to get that down here.
No. I've been driving all over. My girlfriend and I crack up laughing. We're like, we just want a crispy za. Just a crispy crust, man. You know, Can't get it.
There's tons of great pizza in South Jersey. You're just going to the wrong places.
I said there's good pizza, but it's not the style that I'm looking for.
Well, now you're just being picky.
I'm not being picky. I have a certain style that I like. I didn't say I didn't like. I'm not saying the pizza was bad.
So you're saying it's like your preference for hazy IPAs.
Yeah, I didn't say the pizza is bad. I prefer a more crispy style of a crust. People, there's all different styles of pizza. You got the boardwalk pie, the bar pie, the Sicilian, deep dish. There's different styles of pie. By the way, Ovi's going to join us at 5:30 tonight. So we had to reschedule Ovi. By the way, 5:30 tonight when he's on, we should have the inactives, right?
Inactive usually come out around 5:30, 6:30, 6:45 on a Monday night.
Okay.
I wish they were that early.
Well, the pregame starts at 7.
Shout out to the Eagles, though, for making A.J. Brown inactive on Sunday. So you helped me out.
Didn't help me.
Football.
It didn't help me. You know why?
Did not.
Well, listen, this goes to the whole pizza thing. I was tired, okay? I was a little underslept. I did not sleep enough. Okay? So yesterday I was trying to catch up on the sleep, so I'm just kind of relaxing, and we're unpacking the cars and doing all that stuff.
14 games on, by the way, yesterday. 14 NFL games on yesterday.
So the Eagles make the announcement, I guess, around 10 after 12 yesterday.
Yeah, before the 1 p.m.
If I was paying attention, now I'm blaming myself on this. I have no problem blaming myself. This one's on me. The pizza, I wish that guy, the young ladies would have helped me out a little bit more, but okay, I'm not. You're not banned, Jerry. You're not banned, but I was a little disappointed. That being said, I said to my girlfriend, take a guess how much you think the pizza was. She said, $30. I said, $44 for the 6 slices of pizza. Anyway, yesterday's my fault. So I wasn't paying attention. I was just relaxing. I'm getting ready for the day. We're unpacking the cars. And I'm thinking the whole time, the Eagles are no way going to make this announcement on a Sunday.
They did.
And they do. So at 1:10, the games had started.
Right.
Because I was watching a show. My girl and I have been watching a Netflix show. So I'm trying to watch those shows before the football starts.
And AJ is still in your lineup at this point.
He's in my lineup, and on my bench I got Puka Nacua, who's hurt.
Right, he's hurt, so you can't use him.
Right. So the other guy on my bench is some guy from the Patriots, Douglas.
Okay.
But his game had kicked off.
Right.
So I couldn't replace him.
So he's locked.
Right. So my only option now is, do I want to drop Puka Nacua because his game was at 4. So I could have dropped Puka Nacua and picked up somebody else. I just took the 0. What would you have done?
Did you? Well, I would have looked for Dotson for tonight's game.
He was already on. He was picked up
on tonight's game.
He was picked up.
Already picked up.
Well, I could have picked up another Ram.
Quick question. Could you have put Puka on your IR, or was it locked?
No, we have an IR slot, but it was only for COVID. We don't have an IR slot anymore, that's what threw me off. Well, that's what threw me off, because on the website, the IR option was there. So I was like, all right, I'll just put him on the IR. Then I texted the commissioner, and the commissioner said the IR was only for COVID, which he's right. I do remember that. But that's what kind of threw me off. So I would have had to have dropped Puka Nacua.
So Puka is too valuable to you later on this season. You'd rather take the 0 now.
Yeah. Would you?
How'd you do? Did that 0 affect you at all?
It's weird because this week in our league, it's what we call a scramble week. So the top 6 scores win and the bottom 6 scores lose. So I have 133. I had a pretty good week even without A.J. Brown. The guy that's matched up against me only has 32 points. This has got to be one of the worst weeks in the history. His team was terrible. Tua, now he's got Bijan, Gus Edwards, Mike. I mean, this team's terrible. But I can't match up against that. I have to match up against the other
6.
So right now there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm in the 5th spot. So I have to hold off 2 teams. But I have A.J. Brown with a 0 burger tonight.
So that really may bite you.
Yeah. Well, I have on my bench Rashid Shaheed. I should have just put him in the game.
He had a monster game.
Killing me.
At least you have Rashid. At least you have him for next week now, though. Against the Eagles, of course.
Or was that a one-hit wonder?
No, he had a good
two-hit
game.
Wonder,
yeah, he had a good game the first week, too, I think.
Yeah.
Didn't he? And I had Jamison Williams. You know what I did do yesterday? I benched Jerome Ford for Zach Charbonnet.
He had a nice game. Yeah, he did a nice game.
He had a nice day. All right, 609-403-0970. It's amazing the amount of pizza that's selections.
It's a hot topic here.
Everybody loves the pizza. Like everyone has they're partial to a pizza spot. Like, do you get the pizza at the same place all the time?
Pretty much.
Or do you mix it up?
No, pretty much the same spot.
I got like 2-3 spots. That's it. Pete,
So,
what
like,
about you?
Yeah, same spot.
All the time. Like if it's a pizza, like Friday night. Every Friday you do Pizza Friday.
Yeah, Pizza Friday night, yep.
And you get it at the same spot.
Yeah.
Your go-to spot. That's where you go.
Yes.
Mm.
Eat in. Got to eat in.
You know, after I went to New Haven, after that trip to New Haven, it really changed my taste buds for the pizza.
You become more of a snob now.
That pizza's on another planet. I mean, when they tell you that pizza's really good, they ain't lying.
It's like when...
You ever been there?
No.
It's worth the trip.
You believe so?
I've been there twice.
Oh, it is worth the trip for you then.
I've been there twice. You go, you tour the campus, Yale.
Right.
You get a couple...
You have that Yale T-shirt, I see.
Yep.
Seen, yep.
You go to Frank Pepe's or maybe Sally's a Pizza. There's a bunch of them up there. You just pop in, you get a pie. See, in there they tell you, get the pie.
Yep.
It's more efficient. It's more cost effective.
So now we go back to, if they were going to tell you get the pie, then maybe they should have told you get the pie at this other place.
Well, you're not, I mean, you're going to those places, you're sitting down, you're going through the whole experience, you're getting the pie. You know, this place I walked in, I was taking it to go with me. See, that's the other thing. You're taking the pizza to go to get a whole pie seems kind of like, and then it's like, well, how am I carrying these pizza slices back to where I'm going? I need the full box, so I might as well just got the pie anyway.
Exactly.
So, you know.
Like the one texter said, it's half a dozen one to the other.
I'm taking a little bit of blame. I'm just saying I would have expected, because I will say most of the time when you order 6 slices for the price, usually the place will say, do you just want to get the pie? Isn't that your experience?
Yeah, for the most part. The server probably should have had the...
Even if you say they should or shouldn't, don't they normally?
Yeah.
Like, even if they... Okay, they're in a business, they want to rip me off, fine. But generally, the place would say, hey, sir, you're getting 6 slices. It's just cheaper to get 8.
Yeah.
Or a pie. That's my thought. So you can blame me if you want. I'm just saying.
I say both deserve blame. I think it's like a 60-40. I think the business deserves 60%, and Mike, you maybe deserve like 30-40.
I'll take some blame.
But I think it's more on the business, my opinion, because every pizza place I've ever been to, they usually will tell you, like, for example, the one pizza place I go to, if I order a pie, right, and the guy will be like, hey, man, listen, I don't have this or that topping. And I'll be like, all right, well, let me get something else then. Like, he'll like verbalize it to me. Like,
well, if he doesn't have it, you can't get it.
Well, I mean, according to this place, they probably tell me, oh, we don't have it when I got there.
Well, I just ordered 6 plain slices. So, I mean, to not have plain slices would have been a very poor job by that place. Although, I will say, I walked in and there were no plain slices on display. They were like underneath the counter somewhere. She was pulling them out.
That's shady.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just have a bunch of pies down there. Like,
I think that's shady.
I don't know. 609-403-0970.
I mean, would you have, if the number was 7, like if you wanted to get 3 slices for yourself, you had another 3, and then your girlfriend had the 1.
Wait, say that again?
If the number was 7, would you have then thought to yourself, maybe we should have gotten a whole pie?
You know what? I was just so tired and just like, I just am hungry. Like, I hadn't eaten all day. I was just like, and I said to him,
because 6 is a lot to begin with.
Well, there's 3 of us.
Right, so you probably should have gone into it probably thinking you're going to split a whole pie as opposed to getting individual slices.
Well, what threw me off is when I asked her son, how many slices do you want? And he said 3. I was like, you want 3? He's like, yeah, why not? And I'm like, all right, 3 for him. And I'm like, well, I'll take 2. And she only wants 1.
So what we're really finding out here, Pete, is that Mike Gill is having Josh nightmares because his girlfriend's son gave him a Josh number, and he was like, oh, come on, I tried to get away from Josh for a weekend, and now you're giving me this answer.
Well, I mean, normally the answer is always
2.
Exactly.
So because you got a Josh answer, you were thrown off.
A little bit.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean,
3 is the odd number.
3 is the number that's a little odd. You getting a pie for the game tonight?
No, I think I'm going to go wings. Maybe I'll get some soggy fries.
By the way, Mike, I love this one text.
I'm going to go wings and some soggy fries. Great.
Did you see the text from Bill in EHT?
Maybe.
He said,
there's a lot of text here. I'm losing track.
He said, bring the pizza box back. Maybe we'll get a free refill.
Yeah, no, I read that one earlier. So that's what I said. I was like, maybe they'll say, hey, we ripped you off. Here's 2 free slices to finish the pie. Still $44 for a whole pie would be preposterous.
That's still preposterous. Right?
What's the most you've ever paid for a pie?
In the 20s?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I think the most I ever paid was, I think, 40.
What do you guys, by the way, real quick, what do you guys make of McMullen guaranteed a sack tonight from Bryce Huff?
Right.
He did.
You put money on that.
I should walk right over there and see if they will take that bet.
Can you do player props at the sports book?
I'll go ask them.
Yeah, I got to find that out. I don't know if they do player props.
I'm sure they'll take your money.
What's the odds on that? A Bryce Huff sack tonight. Are they out yet? Sometimes the defensive players aren't. I actually, on my drive over here, thought about a Bryce Huff big game.
You were thinking about it earlier.
I was actually.
And John spoke it into your existence over here.
Well, the right tackle for Atlanta's got the groin problem.
Right. Cousins can't move.
Exactly. And maybe this is like, so when he said that, I was like, you know what? I was thinking about that on my drive over. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. This hour of the show brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating and plumbing service installation for generations. Call 609-390-3907 or online at broadlees.net. More Sports Bash on the way. Phillies and Brewers tonight. Big game. Really, the Phillies can try to knock the Brewers out of any number one seed contention. And then football at 4 with Jeff Mosher, Knicks Nuggets, Sal Paolantonio tonight at 5 o'clock. Live report from Lincoln Financial Field. It's all right here on the Sports Bash from the Fanatic Sportsbook at the Gallery Bar, Book, and Games at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ Bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, 3:53 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. So the betting odds on Bryce Huff to get a sack tonight. It is half a sack or, let's see,
a quarter of a sack.
Now, PG is on DraftKings. What'd you use, Josh?
I went on the Action Network website.
So is that across the board?
It's the consensus odds across the different props, the different books.
Gotcha. So
I see the DraftKings is the 0.25, which I don't even know how that even works. I mean, how do you
just get a half? What do you mean? You get a half a sack and you win.
Yeah, him and Brandon Graham can just come together and sack Kirk Cousins on a third.
You get credit for half a sack, you win. As opposed to if it's a half a sack and you get a half a sack, is that a push?
That'd be a push.
Yeah,
that would be a push.
So if you get 0.25, you only need a half a sack to get paid. You better jump in on that right now. What's that, plus 105?
Yeah.
Plus they're offering a little odds boost right now, 50%. Jump in on that. I like that bet. I had a little vision of that I was driving through the tunnel when that happened. Driving through the...
you had a vision? You had a vision while you're driving through the tunnel?
A premonition. A premonition on that. Coming up next hour, it's football at 4. Jeff Mosher. How does Mosher think the Eagles will compensate for no A.J. Brown? How big of a loss is it? Well, we know it's a monumental loss. What do you guys think? 609-403-0973. By the way, the tailgaters are out in Philly right now. They are out and ready to go. Are you on your way to the game? If you are heading to the game, let me know. 609-403-0973. Leave your name. We'll give you a shout out. Let us know where you're tailgating tonight.
There's
we already had a guy earlier.
He's in the parking lot.
He's ready. Look at the tailgaters are out there. We had a guy earlier text in, said tonight is his 300th consecutive Eagles game. Are you going to the game? Text us your name and where you're tailgating. We'll give you a shout out on the way up. 609-403-0973.
97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
Just hungry to bring back another Lombardi to Philly. The fans deserve it. Our team deserves it. Culture begs for it.
Now live, this is Football at 4.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Mike Gill with you. And, of course, it is a Monday. It's a Mosher Monday. Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast is here as we take a look at tonight's matchup between the Eagles and the Falcons. It's finally here, Jeff Mosher. And yesterday, man, Eagles got to be on high alert. I mean, if you thought that this Falcons team was kind of like a middle-of-the-road type of team, you had the Saints, you had the Buccaneers, you had Detroit lost yesterday, Minnesota beat San Francisco. Obviously, there was a lot of upsets yesterday, and then you get the news, Moshe. Let's start there. No A.J. Brown. What does that do to start off this conversation for Football at 4 for the Eagles offense tonight?
Well, it certainly changes the dynamic of the offense, Mike. And we've only seen A.J. Brown not be able to play a game for the Eagles once since they traded for him.
Didn't go well.
Yeah, it did not go well. That was the Buccaneers last year in the playoffs. They were a sinking ship prior to that game, but that really was the icing on the cake. Devontae Smith did have a very good game that game, and I would expect he'll be one of your top target guys tonight against the Falcons, Mike. And it's also a new offense. It's also Kellen Moore's offense, so there's not reason to think that just because it sputtered against Tampa last year when it was already spiraling out of control that they can't move the chains at all and you're going to see a repeat. However, what A.J. Brown brings to this offense, is that he's the best player. He might be the best. When you look at the entire team, he may be the best overall player on the team, offense, defense, whatever you want. And secondly, Mike, he brings a physical, intimidating presence. He brings the ability for Jalen Hurts in the offense to make a play when a play isn't always there to be made, just with hand fighting or using late hands or getting open with physicality that you really don't see in any other player on offense. I think Dallas Goedert is a physical player, and I think that Devontae Smith, despite his frame, he plays bigger than his frame, but there's nobody who – that touchdown last week, I don't know it seems like 3 years ago now, against Green Bay, where he beat Jair Alexander, used some hand fighting and got free. You don't see that from anybody else on this team, and that's where I'm concerned tonight, is just having that physically imposing presence when you need a play on third down.
All right, let's get into – who picks up the slack? What is the configuration? We know Smith will probably be the guy, but who else now? Is there a Paris Campbell? He was inactive the last time. Do you have a bigger day from Dotson? Johnny Wilson also hamstring problems as well. So who's somebody that maybe picks up the slack if, Smith gets his? Who's the other guy tonight?
Yeah, it's a good question. A.J. Brown is the X receiver in this offense. He's, usually lined up along the boundary side, and they don't really have a player who is a natural X. I mean, even the big 6'6" rookie Johnny Wilson is, questionable because of the hamstring, but they haven't really used him in that capacity. You might see formationally things to compensate for the absence, more 2x2, more 1x3 with Dallas Goedert as your one split out with, maybe 3 on the other side to try to isolate Goedert and get him going. In some ways, you might see more 12 personnel with Goedert and Calcaterra on the field. I expect, and we'll see, I would anticipate a little more throwing to the running back if the quarterback can do that and wants to. Last week, it was, we make a big deal about the wheel route touchdown as far as throwing to the running back, but Barkley only had 2 catches. I think Gainwell had 1, so it wasn't a real festival of throwing to the running back. But they really don't have a natural X receiver to line up there. I imagine you'll see Devontae Smith there a little bit. And Jahan Dotson is a Z, a slot. I mean, it's been mostly a move receiver on the opposite side. So I'm curious like you. I think everybody is wondering, how do you replace not just the production, not just the physicality, but formationally, who is the guy that lines up on the line of scrimmage, absorbs the press, and can make a play?
Yeah, and if that guy is Dotson and they decide, hey, because look, he's getting a crash course for this offense to begin with. Hey, you're going to be the slot guy. Now, do you say, hey, you've been trying to crash course the slot. We're going to move you to an X position and put someone else in the slot. Is that Britton Covey tonight, possibly?
Well, first of all, I don't see Dotson as the guy who would move. If anything, they elevate Paris Campbell with his speed and his experience in the league. You might see him and Devontae kind of rotating there.
Yeah.
Dotson is not a big guy, and he doesn't play big. He did at Penn State, surprisingly. He made a lot of great contested catches. He did not play big in Washington, and that's a big reason why they got rid of him, and he's here. So, but yes, you could see him more in the slot. You could see Britton Covey. I do think it's kind of an all-hands-on-deck approach. Whoever's available. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me if 5 or 6 different guys were receiving, were pass catchers in this game. But the reality is that doesn't matter. What matters is when it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, when you need it, when the defense is about to come after you. How many times do we see A.J. Brown win on a comeback, right, on against the blitz, or just fight his way to get across the middle and make extra yards to get what they need? That is, I don't see that in any other receiver other than Devontae Smith, who, again, is probably going to command a lot of coverage with A.J. Brown out.
Well, Jeff, we knew, if one of the top 2 guys got hurt or had a missed time, that this was going to be a problem. The question is hamstring. This kind of popped up Friday. This is something that happened Friday, and Sirianni said, we'll see. And sometimes it seems like it's innocent, and the next thing you know, these are 4 to 5, 6 week injuries sometimes. That's the big picture look at this thing, is how it kind of popped up Friday to the point where Friday it comes up, Saturday you're out, and now Monday you're not playing. How long does this thing possibly keep you out for?
Right. Now, A.J. Brown's had some minor things, since he came over, a hand here or a knee there, but he's managed to not miss any, outside of that one game against Tampa Bay, which was important. But so you hope this doesn't linger. You hope he's a quick healer, a Bryce Harper-like healer where you just get back way before you would expect. And you hope this hamstring, and maybe they're just being cautious about it more so than pushing him because it's just week 2. But you're right, as far as the depth at wide receiver or lack thereof, it would be pretty catastrophic for this team to be without him or without Devontae Smith for a 2 or 3 or more week stretch.
One of the questions on Saturday was about that third wide receiver like that. It's been in flux, Zaccheaus and Pascal and Watkins, that no one has really been able to be a big part of this offense. Someone's going to have to step up maybe tonight. We'll see who that is. Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast. A.J. Brown ruled out for the game. That happened on Saturday, but everybody else seemingly is healthy here. So let's get your take, Jeff Mosher, on Isaiah Rodgers and the secondary's role tonight against, this isn't like a high-flying Atlanta team, but Drake London, high draft choice, pretty good. Kyle Pitts, a tight end. They got, some interesting weapons here. What does that secondary look like tonight?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with Isaiah Rodgers back, especially, listen, Quinyon Mitchell's not coming off the field. When they're in base, if they're in base, which is, nowadays very seldomly used, but, with the good running game that the Falcons have, you might see the Eagles in a traditional 3 linebacker formation there. We'll see. But either way, when they don't have their nickel back in, you'll see Quinyon Mitchell outside opposite Darius Slay. But what happens when they are in nickel, which they'll be in 60% of the time? Does Mitchell move inside and Isaiah Rodgers then plays the outside like you saw all training camp? I suspect that would be the case. The other alternative, Mike, is, and we saw this in the opener, is that Mitchell stays outside and Avonte Maddox is your nickel. And the big topic that Adam and I talked about on Inside the Birds this week is, what is Vic Fangio's patience like? What is his leash like? It was not very long with Devin White, right? I mean, Devin White was your starter all throughout training camp and preseason. It looked like he was, and then he wasn't because and it was performance. Nakobe Dean played better. And by the opener, Nakobe Dean was the guy, even with Devin White having the ankle injury, he would have been the guy. So will Avonte Maddox go out there for the nickel? Will Cooper DeJean get more nickel reps? Is he ready to assume a bigger role? Do they split it? Or do they say, we got to put Quinyon Mitchell inside because Kyle Pitts is tearing us up, right? And he's a tough matchup for a Maddox or a DeJean right now. And then we'll live with Isaiah Rodgers on the outside. I don't know the answer to that. Mm-hmm. That we'll find out tonight. He has options. But I do wonder how much he's willing to go with Avonte Maddox as his nickel because Avonte didn't play well.
Yeah, you get the feeling that they want to get Cooper sooner than later.
Yes.
Like if he's ready to go, he'll be the guy getting the snaps tonight?
Well, I don't know what ready to go means for them yet. I mean, he's still just 1 week. He's 10 days later than the last game. In the last game, he played 6 snaps as a dime back. You know, that to me says, okay, you had an extra week of practice. Can you now play, 15 snaps? Does that enable you to rotate with Avonte Maddox where you're on, 30% of those nickel reps, right? I don't know. I don't know the answer. It's not just about coverage. It's about the run too. When you're going to have to defend against Bijan Robinson. And if you're in the nickel because you don't know if they're going to run and pass, your nickel corner has to be able to come up and make some plays in the run that you didn't see Maddox make against the Packers. And you wonder if he'll make it against the Browns. You wonder if Cooper DeJean, do you want to put Cooper now, fresh off the injury with only a few weeks of practice, in this spot where he's having to make a ton of tackles? It's a tough call. I imagine we're going to see a variety of packages tonight.
Real quick before we jump to some things on the Falcons, tomorrow will we be talking about a good game from Bryce Huff?
The Falcons have a good offensive line. But if you watch the tape against the Steelers, they're still seeing TJ Watt in their nightmares. I mean, gave him fits. But TJ Watt gives everybody fits, right? And he has been for years. Bryce Huff hasn't proven yet that he's going to give offensive tackle fits all game long for 3 to 4 years and be that kind of player, even though he's paid like a really nice pass rusher. So I think this is a learning assignment for all of us on who Bryce Huff really is and if he can do a better job. I do want to throw out a little bit of the opener for both teams. I mean, the Packers played a very, very impressive game on defense yesterday, right? And you noticed they were at home. They weren't falling all over themselves like they were doing, and so were the Eagles. So I would imagine the Eagles' pass rush will be a little bit better, but it is a good offensive line that they're facing, so we'll see.
All right, Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast, and, of course, Eagles and Falcons tonight. Let's look at the Falcons offense. Give me a couple thoughts when I, say, hey, tell me about the Falcons offense. What worries you tonight about what they do offensively?
All right, well, breaking news here, and your listeners are really going to be happy about the intel that I'm about to give you, Mike. But there's this guy named Bijan Robinson that the Falcons have. He's pretty good. I don't know if everybody knows who Bijan Robinson is, but no, he's an excellent running back. And again, you give the benefit of the doubt to anybody who played on that Brazil field that that's not what you look like in run defense all the time, especially with guys slipping and falling. But I mean, the Eagles really haven't been a great run defensive team for a couple of years now. And so, the Falcons are going to feed Bijan a lot. And what you really worry about is the explosive plays in both the run and the pass game from Bijan. And then I would also be concerned about the mismatch of Kyle Pitts against the interior defensive, alignment there of whatever the Eagles are going to throw out.
Yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see, Jeff, who the Eagles decide to kind of try to line up on Pitts. Pitts, I don't know. He hasn't really lived up to the hype, when he was coming out. I don't know if that's circumstantial that the offense he's in, the quarterbacks he's played in, but we know he's a talent and a tough guy to kind of match up with. So we'll see how that works with Philadelphia tonight. When you look at the Falcons' defense, Jeff Mosher, what is something, they have some interesting, new guys. Judon's there now. Simmons is there now. Grady Jarrett's there. So what is the Falcons defense tonight going to look like?
Hey, it's a good defense. It's not great yet. I mean, I think their secondary is fairly impressive because they have some really tall physical safeties, and Justin Simmons, obviously, and Bates. They have a very good corner in I'm forgetting Terrell, right?
AJ Terrell, yeah. It was we thought, Friday's show when we talked to Adam, we thought AJ Brown versus AJ Terrell, that was going to be a big matchup in this game. Right. Who wins that?
Yeah, no, I guess we won't see that now. So they have a good secondary, and they have really good secondary coaches. Raheem Morris is a defensive backs coach by nature. He's the head coach. And I don't know if a lot of people realize this. Their defensive coordinator, Jimmy Lake, was the guy at the University of Washington who was in charge. He was the defensive backs coach there when it seemed like every corner who came out of that program was A, great in college, and then B, really good in the NFL, except for Sidney Jones, who was an All-American, but when he came to the Eagles, he's coming off the injury. He did not perform well. But guys like Marcus Peters and Budda Baker and, Elijah Molden was drafted, and Kyler Gordon and all the Trufant brothers, Desmond, Marcus, Isaiah. I mean, that school just bred really good defensive backs. So now he's in charge of the defense as the defensive coordinator, but it'll basically be Raheem's defense. I just think that they're missing a little bit in the pass rush. Matthew Judon was a very important acquisition for them, the trade they made to get him from the Patriots. And Grady Jarrett, one of my favorite 3-technique tackles, he's back from an injury last year, ACL. So that gives them 2 guys. I thought their defensive front played well against the Steelers, Mike, but the Steelers' offense is not actually anything to write home about either. So it's always hard after 1 week to really judge what a unit is, whether it's offense or defense.
All right, we'll go some quick hitters right now with Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Those guys have great content leading you into all Eagles games, plus reaction after Eagles games. Let's get this one. 5 straight games with a turnover for Jalen Hurts. Does that snap tonight?
No. I think he'll have at least one.
Last Eagle, by the way, 6 straight games with an interception. Carson Wentz in 2016. Saquon Barkley has not had consecutive 100-yard games since 2021. Does he get that tonight?
100 total or 100 rushing?
100 rushing.
Yes.
Oh, nice. All right. Barkley 109 in week 1. Last time he did it, week 15 and 16 of 2021. We know A.J. Brown will not play tonight. He had 119 yards. He was looking to become the first Eagle with 100 yards in consecutive games to start the season since Deshaun Jackson back in 2013. That record or that honor stays to Jackson right now. Eagles have scored 30 or more in each of their last 3 primetime home games. Do they crack 30 with A.J. Brown out tonight?
No.
Ooh, all right. Low-scoring Eagles offense. And by the way, the Falcons lost by 8 points last week. They have 15 losses by 1 possession since the start of 2022. That's the most in the NFL. Is this a 1-possession game tonight?
Yes.
Oh, all right. With that, Jeff Mosher, who wins and why?
Well, I have to stick with my prediction from the pregame show, which was the Falcons 23, the Eagles 20.
23-20 Atlanta tonight for Jeff Mosher. Now, is that predicated on Brown being out? Is that a different 100%. Score if Brown is in?
I had the Eagles winning with Brown. But so, Mike, I real quick, I just think that if the Eagles are going to win this game, they have to win on 1st and 2nd down. Kind of, I don't know if you watched the Cowboys-Saints game, but the Saints just obliterated the Cowboys by scoring and having big chunk plays on 1st and 2nd down and avoiding 3rd down, avoiding the Cowboy pass rush. They only had 8 third downs the entire game, but they scored a lot on 1st and 2nd down. I think that's what the Eagles, if they're going to win this game, have to do, because without A.J. Brown, 3rd down is not going to be it's never a great down, but if you can convert 40-45%, you're usually good. But I don't know if that's going to happen for them.
All right, he's Jeff Mosher, Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, and, of course, Football at 4. He's back on Wednesday. Adam is here tomorrow to look back at the Eagles and the Falcons, and that, of course, is right here on the Sports Bash Live, and you can listen to the Eagles and Falcons tonight on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Jeff Mosher, we'll see you on Wednesday.
Take care, Mike.
All right, Jeff Mosher, everybody from the Inside the Birds podcast. Check that out. And, of course, Football at 4, it is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Knicks Nuggets are coming up. We're live at the Fanatics Sportsbook at the Gallery Bar, Book, and Games at Ocean Casino Resort. Every Monday, you can check out the show live right here at the new Fanatics Sportsbook. Saw all the participants in town this weekend. I didn't get an invite. Jay-Z was here. You had Michael Rubin here, Jalen Rose, a whole bunch of people were at the Fanatics Sportsbook right here at Ocean Casino Resort. Well, Sports Bash is here today. Knicks Nuggets are coming up.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
On 97.3 ESPN.
Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. We're live at the Fanatics Sportsbook at the Gallery Bar, Book, and Games. Couple Giant fans, 0-2. Nice to be you.
That's a Barkley jersey, though.
Is that an Eagles homage, or is that just like drowning your sorrows away? Saquon Barkley Giants jersey in the house today. See over-under for him.
76.5.
Ooh, nice number. Let's go to the Nuggets. They're brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort. We're at the Fanatics Sportsbook at the Gallery Bar, Book, and Game, and they bring you today's edition of Knicks Nuggets with Nick Earnshaw. He's back for another edition of Knicks Nuggets here on the Sports Bash. What's up, Nick?
What's up, Mike? So we got somebody wearing a Saquon Giants jersey? Like, is that even allowed anymore? Like, how can you wear a Saquon Giants jersey at this point?
Maybe it's a protest. Maybe it's a protest. Maybe he's wearing it in protest. He misses his guy. He's supporting him tonight.
Yeah, I guess so. You know, I would cry my sorrows away too if I were a Giants fan wearing the Saquon jersey for the rest of eternity. I guess at this point with where they're.
No, let me say, you're a jersey guy, Pete, right?
Yeah.
You'll wear the jersey.
Yeah.
Is that like no good to be wearing the jersey of the guy who signed away with the division rival?
Yeah, I would not wear that thing in public, especially around a Philadelphia area casino.
Like if you were now you just moved back from DC,
right?
See any Bryce Harper jerseys down there while you were living there?
No, they hate that guy.
They hate Harper.
They do.
What about Turner?
Turner, they still have love for him because he won the World Series. Schwarber, I mean, he was there for like 4 months. Soto is another guy that's beloved down there.
Wow,
because those guys won the World Series.
They hate Harper though.
Harper, yeah, they don't like Harper.
Wow. All right, no, you can't wear. I think the guy with the Barkley Giants jersey on it's weak sauce.
Yeah,
it's a no-go for me. You can't wear the Saquon Barkley jersey after he just left your team to go to a division rival. Like, he had the choice to do that. Like, you can't do that.
That's exactly what Harper did, too. That's exactly a division rival.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it wasn't like the Giants gave him much of a choice. They didn't really have much interest in signing him.
It's true. You could blame the front office. You could do that as well, but still, he could have chose any other team, but he chose the Philadelphia Eagles. Go right down the turnpike to the division rival. I wouldn't be wearing it if I were a Giants fan. All right, nugget number one. Speaking of Saquon, we got to answer the question of the day. AJ Brown is out, Mike and Pete. He's out for this game. Hopefully he comes back next week against the Saints, but he will miss tonight's Week 2 game against the Atlanta Falcons. So the question of the day is, who's going to step up in his absence? Guys, it's going to be Saquon Barkley. I mean, the Falcons gave up a ton of rushing yards last week, 137 to be exact. Najee Harris had a pretty good day for the Steelers at 70 yards on the ground. Justin Fields also had 57 yards. Maybe you see a little bit out of Jalen Hurts too, but Saquon had such a big game in Week 1 on a terrible field against the Green Bay Packers. I think he carries the load once again. Not necessarily going to be a receiver. I think, Smith will get his as well as Dotson, but I think Saquon Barkley has another big game 2 weeks in a row. If you got him in fantasy, man, you're in luck because he's going to have another big week against these Atlanta Falcons. The juice to the link tonight. Oh, it's got to be Saquon Barkley being the guy to step up.
Well, McMullen brought up, and by the way, they elevated Paris Campbell from the practice squad, so he is now up. So does he go to the outside? Dotson stays in the slot. I'm interested to see how that all kind of plays out tonight. That's number one. Number two, McMullen brought up an interesting thing. They put their game plan in on Wednesday, which means the game plan was in with Brown in the lineup. He didn't get hurt until Friday. So they have to re-change the game plan, I wonder, over, like, how did that change the game plan?
You're saying Kellen Moore probably slept in his office Friday night, Saturday night.
Would you change the game plan if A.J. Brown was out, or would you keep it the same?
I would change it.
Well, probably, right?
Yeah.
You're probably changing it. So that would put some credence to your answer of Saquon Barkley. Look, I think Barkley's going to have a big game regardless. I think he's a big part of this offense every single week. But with A.J. Brown out, you got to put more on his plate and say, look, we got to simplify things, and then hopefully you get good first and second down, yardage on the ground, and then when you need that throw, look, you have old reliable Devontae Smith there that makes those chain-moving type of catches. That's where you get Goddard involved. The question is, last week, A.J. Brown has the 66-yarder. Who has the big play in them tonight? Where do you get that big playmaking? And now, Smith can do it, but where do you get that big play from? If they're going to bracket Smith and say somebody else beat us, who's that other guy? We'll see. But I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with you. Saquon Barkley will be the offensive guy tonight, I think, has the big game.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm curious to see how they get Saquon Barkley involved in the passing game. That could be the play where you break something off, right? Like you get him involved in a little screen pass, couple of blocks goes his way, boom, he could take it to the house. That could be the big play tonight, not necessarily a Dotson or a Paris Campbell or a Smith. It could be a short play to Barkley that could turn into a big play. That's where I could see it happening tonight because you have to change things up with A.J. Brown being out. Saquon Barkley, I think, could get involved in the passing game a little bit. And then you also mentioned Paris Campbell. Where's he going to be out on the outside, or where is he going to be? Dotson as well. I think you might see Devontae Smith also line up in the slot tonight. I think you're going to see that as well. I think you're going to see a lot of mixing and matching from Kellen Moore, getting creative with this offense. So I think Saquon in the passing game, you're going to see a little bit of Devontae Smith in that slot spot as well. I think that's where the offense is likely to head tonight, Mike and Pete.
Well, that's where you try to get the mismatch. You try to move him around to get those mismatches, to get Smith lined up on someone that's a more favorable matchup for him. And look, that's the chess match now when you only have one. And listen, no crying anybody a river that you only have one guy. I mean, a lot of teams would love to have a guy like Smith to be their main guy. But you got to be able to figure out a way to do it. The question is, who takes that Brown role and what kind of impact or even production can they get from if it's Paris Campbell, if they decide, like, I think they use Paris Campbell. It's one of those situations where you go from the practice squad and go right into the active roster and actually make, an impact in the game. I don't know what kind of impact, but I think he'll play more snaps than some of these other guys that made the active roster a week ago because he's the guy that you say, look, you're a veteran and you're here in case somebody gets hurt. If somebody gets hurt, you're here. We don't really need you unless somebody gets hurt.
And you said it. You mentioned the creativity with trying to get Devontae Smith kind of mismatching. That gives me – I have the confidence in Kellen Moore to do that. We finally have a legit offensive coordinator here to do that as opposed to last year. I wouldn't be as confident.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, look, Kellen Moore is a guy that you should be trusting that he can do what's happening right now, make those adjustments and say, all right, Brown is out. I got to tweak some things, and I have enough talent around here to kind of compensate for that.
Yeah, with no Brian Johnson, Sirianni's kind of out of the picture for the most part. This is Kellen Moore's offense. This is his, right? And we've seen him get more creative. We saw more motion in week one. He's got all the talent around. I would expect Hurts to try and spread the ball around more so this week than without A.J. Brown. Sometimes he gets a little one-dimensional with A.J. Brown in the lineup. This is a night where you really want to try and spread that ball around. Get Dallas Goedert involved. Get Smith, Dotson, Saquon, all these names that you have on offense involved. I think you're going to see more creativity. Last year, I don't think you would have saw that. When A.J. Brown goes out, it doesn't get creative. It gets completely one-dimensional, and you're not really able to move the ball at all. So I think that today you're going to see a lot of creativity out of Kellen Moore's offense, a lot of pre-snap motion. I like what the Eagles could come with tonight. Also, we could see a special play tonight because it is nugget number 2. We got a guy retiring named Nick Foles. He's retiring as a Philadelphia Eagle tonight, Mike and Pete. So maybe we could see a little special Philly for the home fans with Nick Foles in the building. So I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. It's a possibility. But I want to talk about Foles a little bit because I've had this argument on the weekend in the locker room. I've had it with friends, family. This is a divisive issue. Should Nick Foles' number be retired? I say yes. How can you not retire the only quarterback that has won a Super Bowl in franchise history? I don't think there's any question about it. It's a special circumstance. I know the argument is, he didn't play long enough. He wasn't here long enough. He wasn't good enough for long enough. I get it. But his number should be retired at some point. He's retiring as an Eagle tonight. That number, it's a soft retirement anyway already. No one's worn number 9 since him. I think you got to retire the number, Mike and Pete.
I disagree, and strongly. All right? You're bigger than that. I know you only have one Super Bowl, but you have to think bigger than that. People act like with this Foles thing, retire him because it's the only time it's ever going to happen. Foles was not a good enough player long enough to justify his number. Do you retire Brad Johnson's number if you're the Buccaneers? No. Do you retire Trent Dilfer's number if you're the Ravens? Of course not. Just because the guy who was the quarterback at the time you won your Super Bowl, you can't. If you're the people who say retire Foles, to me, that's the only time we might ever get one. So we have to immortalize this man. I don't look at it like that. He caught lightning in a bottle. He was awesome for a short amount of time. You don't retire people's numbers for being good for a short amount of time.
He really was just a journeyman quarterback. At the end of the day, with a Super Bowl MVP and a Super Bowl, obviously. But, I mean, he really was just a journeyman, honestly.
I totally disagree. I just totally disagree. Name one of those quarterbacks that you named off. Did any of them beat Tom Brady? None of them beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. That's the greatest of all time. You beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Speaking of Tom Brady,
that's not what Mike's saying. I think you have to separate that from.
It's a special circumstance. That's the thing I'm trying to get at. This is a special
circumstance to me is too small-minded. It's as if, that's it. It's the only time it's going to happen, and therefore you have to immortalize it. Does Tom Brady get his number retired by the Buccaneers because he won the Super Bowl there?
No, it was his 7th Super Bowl. It's a different category.
It's not his statue, right?
History.
They have the Philly special statue. That should be good enough.
It was his 7th, but it was only the Buccaneers' 2nd. So? For them, but that's my point. No, of course they're not, because you don't limit it to this is the only time we're ever going to do it. Yes, we won, and it was an awesome story, but we've done so many things to kind of bring that story to light. To retire his number is now saying that he's an all-time great in your franchise history.
I agree.
And he's not an all-time great. He had an all-time great moment. And because he had this all-time great moment, he got a statue. He's immortalized.
Tonight is his night. That's it.
Yeah.
No, he's got to have another night. I want another night next year or something, or in a couple of years, because he deserves to have the number retired, because this only happens once. You only win the Super Bowl for the first time, one time, and it was from a backup quarterback who was an underdog in every single game heading into that postseason. They were counted out every game they were in. And this guy went toe-to-toe with Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. He had the cojones to call Philly with Doug Peterson. He was a backup quarterback. It embodies the city of Philadelphia for what this guy did. It only happens once. You only win for the first time once. And he's the only Super Bowl MVP in franchise history. This team, people were crying, grown men crying when this team won because of what Nick Foles did. He played a fantastic Super Bowl. He was great. It's one of the better Super Bowl performances of all time. No one's worn number 9 since then because they soft retired it. If you're going to soft retire it, just retire it in general, because no one's going to live up to wearing that number again, because they are going to recognize 9 and Foles for the rest of history, the rest of eternity in Philadelphia sport and for the Eagles. You have to retire his number. It's a special circumstance. I am with you. Usually it's because of, longevity, how good they were here. But this is the only Super Bowl MVP in history of the Philadelphia Eagles. You got to retire his number. No one should wear that number again. When you see fans walking up to the game, number 9, it's only going to be Foles. It's only going to be Foles. No one can live up to what he did for this city. It's just not going to happen.
No, and it was an awesome moment, and it will never be duplicated. By the way, it is pretty crazy. You think about, the fact that Foles was almost the Rocky story. I mean, he is the Rocky story. And he got his Rocky statue. He has one outside the stadium. But, hey, listen, I have very high grades and standards for people who get immortalized for greatness. Like Terrell Davis to me, Kurt Warner, those guys should not be in the Hall of Fame. Their careers were too short. They didn't have longevity of greatness. Foles, not enough longevity of greatness. He has a moment. And to me, you don't get what greatness receives for a moment. That's all.
Like Kelsey and BG, those guys, their numbers will be retired. 62, 54.
62 and
55.
55. Excuse me, yes. Those numbers
You
will
threw
be
me off for a second there.
Yeah. I was thinking about Trotter for a second.
I would think both of those two guys will be retired, yes.
Yeah, Kelsey, I definitely could see. BG, if you're putting Foles in, and if you're going to put BG in, I think you have to put Foles in, too. Number 9, I don't want some backup, bum wearing his jersey. I mean, you can't have a backup third string wearing number 9. It just can't happen.
No, and they've done a good job of, not giving it out to, a rando, but I think it's one of those things where it's a special circumstance. To me, some of these teams, they hand these things out way too easily. I like the teams that really make it difficult. Like the Yankees, you can't wear any number. I know they have a lot of great players there, but still, they've made it almost too easy to say, you hit 62 home runs in one season. What else did you do?
Yeah, no, listen.
99's going to be retired pretty soon.
99, yeah.
Yeah. That will never be worn in Yankee pinstripes again. But I just think Foles deserves to have it done. It's a different circumstance surrounding this. I think it should happen because of what he did and how great the moment was. It was bigger than anything anyone could imagine. All right. Final nugget of the day, nugget number 3. I got to get into the Phillies a little bit. It's not necessarily because of the magic number. They're going to get in the postseason within the next week or so. The magic number to get in, I believe, is 5 at the moment to win the East at this point. I think it's 5. But there was a rumor going around that the Phillies are going to be interested in a Yankee. That we haven't mentioned is Juan Soto. He's a free agent at the end of the year. We've heard the rumors with the New York Yankees how they don't really want to spend money. They're getting a little cheaper. The younger Steinbrenner, he don't want to spend money like his dad did. So they might not go out and re-sign Soto, but he might test the market and he might command $500 million. If you're the Phillies, do you go out and spend that $500 million on a Juan Soto to bring him in? He would replace Castellanos in right field, Mike. I know you'd be happy about that. Is it the right move for the Phillies to go after him in this offseason, no matter what happens?
I would tell you I wouldn't be happy about it because that means the Phillies probably lost. And if they lost, it's because Castellanos does what I sadly think might happen, is come up small in the playoffs. Now, I don't want that to happen, but I think if the Phillies end up coming up short again, then yes, you have to think about somehow changing the dynamics of this lineup, and somebody from the core would have to go and be replaced by another impactful player. Look, when they signed Castellanos, it wasn't to be the 7-hole hitter. It was to hit in the middle of the lineup. He's doing that now. By the way, tonight he is in the 4-hole. We talked about this on Friday's show. What are they going to do with him when Bohm comes back? Well, Casty's 4, Bohm is 5. So that's what they signed him for. They didn't sign him to hit 7th. And sadly, he was hitting 7th for way too much on a team like this. He should be in the middle of the lineup. But if they come up short again in the playoffs, they have to find a more consistent middle of the lineup hitter, and that would probably be the spot because you're not getting rid of Harper, you're not getting rid of Schwarber. So the guy that they would have to figure out how to replace would be Castellanos, and that they play the same position.
Yeah, I think with Soto, you have to remember, he's also 25 years old. Like, he is extremely young at this point in a career, and he's probably already a Hall of Famer. I mean, at 25, this guy's probably already going to get into the Hall of Fame based on his trajectory and where he's already at right now. I think no matter what, I think if you win the World Series or if you get bounced, I think you go after Soto anyway. The guy is that young. Like, he could be part of your core going forward way down the line.
Well, I wouldn't be.
Do you want to get into a bidding war, though, with what happens with the Yankees if they come up short? Do they run it back with Soto and Judge? Or the Mets, do they get involved? Do you want to get into a bidding war for
I
Juan
wouldn't
Soto?
be adverse. Like what you said is true, too, Nick. I think you're right. Even if the Phillies win the World Series, I don't think you can run it back with the same team and try to go with it again. I think you have to try to change something up about the team. Because once you win, everybody's going to try to do something to get better. You can't stay the same. So the Phillies would have to look at seriously making a tough decision. You can't move Harper, Stott, Turner, Bohm, Schwarber, the center field situation. Okay, you could maybe look for an upgrade or do something different there. And then in right field, Castellanos. The problem with Castellanos is he has a contract. It's going to be a tough contract to move. So it's going to be hard to say, we're going to sign someone that plays the same position of a guy that we already have signed. That's the hard part here. Real Muto, he's here too. So there really isn't an obvious guy that is not going to be on the team next year. The only spot would be center field, Brandon Marsh, Rojas, that little, triangle that you've had. I don't know what you do about that. You bring in Soto, but you would have to move someone out to bring him in.
Yeah, I mean, you can move Castellanos to left field, possibly. You could do that.
You would, even if you did that,
you save money.
You'd be paying, $100 million of Castellanos, and then whatever you're paying to bring Soto in here. Now your outfield is Castellanos in left, Soto in right, and then you're still in the same center field situation.
Yeah, and it seems like he's going to command $500 million. But I think it doesn't matter if you win or not this year. I think that's something you want to at least take into consideration to bring him in. And, Bryce Harper and him, they've been pictured together at events before. They're friends. They played together in Washington. Like Pete said, Soto's still loved down there. I mean, the guy won a World Series. He's only 25 years old. I can't believe how many teams he's played on at this point for a guy of his caliber. He just gets traded all the time, Padres and the Yankees. So I think if the Phillies do win or not, they should at least inquire about trying to bring him in, because that would be massive for the future of the Phillies and right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're looking way down the road, but I do agree that they I don't think you can bring back this same core again. No. But, again, what happens in this playoff run? That will – and I don't think it should change. Even if you win the World Series, you have to find a way to get better. But you might not have to go so drastic with a $500 million player if you win the World Series. If you lose and don't get a World Series this year, then you have to start thinking, okay, how do I make that change? What can we do to go from a team that failed in 2022 – 2023, and now again in 2024.
Is it would it be the manager?
Good question.
I guess depends.
I mean, seriously though, I know people don't like the manager, but how could they justify? You had a guy who took you to the World Series after your team was not even a playoff team. He got them to a World Series. Then last year, they get to the NL Championship Series, and you can say, okay, they were the favorite and they lost. Well, this year, all he's done is, fine, we had a disappointing loss. Well, now they're the first team to 90 wins. They're 9 games up in the division. So it's not like they took a step back with the manager. So it's hard even for the people out. Like, let's say I hated Rob Thompson. I would have to at least be somewhat objective and say, as much as I don't like him, the team has responded by being the best team in baseball this year. It's hard to say we're going to fire the guy who's leading the best team in baseball.
Yeah, that's the thing, is the team responds to him.
They've gotten better.
That's the main thing.
They've gotten better.
As opposed to like Nick Sirianni, where they fell apart last year.
Well, listen, I would say, if you don't like Rob Thompson, give me reasons why. The reasons why people don't like him are not, to me, impactful enough. In other words, well, he should have hit for Stubbs in the 9th inning, 3 weeks ago. Well, Stubbs is never going to hit in the 9th inning of a playoff game.
His Kimbrel decisions last year, though, were...
Those were bad.
Those were bad.
Absolutely, but I would also counter with the same question. Who was he going to?
Right.
Sometimes it's like, hey, look, Kimbrel shot. Okay, I would agree. I would not go to Kimbrel there, but he doesn't really have a closer in that moment. That's the guy he went to all year, and you don't really have another guy that's close. But, again,
this postseason... Who are you going to? Estevez?
Well, he's got 5 lockdown type of guys here. He's got a lot of... Look, I saw this today. The Phillies have 5 choices you could close a game out with, really, this year. In 2022, he was going to Bilotti, Nick Nelson. I mean, some of these bullpen arms in 2022. All right, there are the Nuggets today. Nick's Nuggets are back again tomorrow. He's Nick Earnshaw. And, of course, he's the host of the Shift podcast and the producer of The Locker Room. Nick's Nuggets are brought to you by the Fanatics Sportsbook at the Gallery Bar Book and Games. Nick, we'll see you tomorrow, man.
See you guys. See you tomorrow.
All right, there's Nick. And, of course, tomorrow, more Nuggets here on the Sports Bash. Sal Paolantonio is coming up next.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort studio, here's Mike Gill.
Bash 97.3 ESPN live at the Fanatics Sportsbook at the Gallery Bar Book and Games, Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. I'm Mike Hill. This is the Sports Bash. We got the Eagles and the Falcons coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. The pregame show, Merrill Reese, Mike Quick have the call coming up at 8:20 right here on 97.3 ESPN. Monday Night Football in Philadelphia. And that means Sal Paolantonio is on site at Lincoln Financial Field. The coffee is served, the paper is ready, and he's on the Sports Bash now with a live report from the link on the Eagles and the Falcons. Sal Pal on a Monday. What's up, my friend?
Hello, Michael. I came down about an hour ago, and people were tailgating all over the place. There must have been 20, 25,000 people tailgating already 5 hours before the game.
I wouldn't think any other way up there at the link for an Eagles opener. This is the home opener. Obviously, last week was a home game, but it was on the road. But they got greeted to some big news on Saturday or Sunday, Sal. It was told to the fans they were not going to see A.J. Brown. I got to imagine that's the number one thing on your mind is with Brown out tonight. How does that change things? Because it wasn't known that he was out. He didn't get hurt till Friday. They usually put the game plan in a little earlier in the week. So what is the cause and effect here with that?
Well, you have to change the game plan on the fly. You know, they do have contingencies, but you're missing number 11 is big. You know, his superpower is his availability, his presence on the field. He's such a commanding presence, and especially for Jalen Hurts, they've known each other since they were teenagers. And in the last 38 starts, he's only missed 2, and he's got the second most snaps at the wide receiver position in the NFL in the last 3 years. So he's always on the field. Like I said, his superpower is his presence. And, you know, what do you do? What do you do offensively? Well, a lot of people are talking about Saquon Barkley filling the gap, you know, and I think that's okay. But to me, I think the Falcons want the Eagles to play small ball. They want to slow the game down. They want to play four corners offense. I think the way to do this is to attack their secondary with Devontae Smith, open things up. A lot of 9 routes, a lot of deep posts. Make sure that you occupy Jesse Bates III and Justin Simmons. They're 2 great safeties. I think the 2 best players for the Falcons, their 2 best athletes, 2 most experienced NFL players are their 2 safeties. And that's the way that head coach wants to play. He comes out of the Tampa 2 system. He wants to keep everything in front of the safeties. So you got to challenge those safeties. That's the number one thing you got to do. And I think the way to do that is with Devontae Smith. I would throw it to him deep early and often until you hit on one, a big bomb or 2.
What's this mean for Saquon? You know, I saw a stat. It's if he gets 100 yards, it'll be the first time he gets consecutive weeks of 100 yards back-to-back since 2021. So him getting over 100 yards has not happened often in back-to-back weeks. But how much more Saquon do you think we see tonight?
Well, Michael, you always throw to score and run to win. So you throw early and get an early lead. And then, you know, you force the Falcons to make Kirk Cousins drop back and try to play catch-up offense. And from what we saw last week of Kirk, you got to play complementary football in this game without A.J. Brown. And what we saw of Kirk Cousins last week is he wasn't as mobile as he used to be because he's coming off that torn Achilles, and he's 36 years old. They didn't move him out of the pocket. You didn't see the bootleg. You didn't see the boot action. You didn't see the play action and all that stuff. So I think you score early and then use Saquon as the hammer late. And I could see them using Saquon late and him still going over 100 yards like they did last week. Oh, so many moons ago. It's almost surreal. I was in Brazil. It seems like yesterday. And oh, my gosh. And here I am at Lincoln Financial Field for week 2. And I covered a game yesterday in Detroit. I covered the Bucs-Lions game.
Not to mention you were hanging out up at the Meadowlands last week right after the Brazil game.
4 games in 2 weeks for a 68-year-old bum like me. Don't try that at home.
Sal Paolantonio's at Lincoln Financial Field. You take a look at Barkley. Don't forget about Smith. You got Dallas Goedert. But, with Brown out, what's the answer? They did elevate Paris Campbell, but you can't replace him. Sal, when we go back to training camp, the one thing you talk about is the one thing they don't really have is if Brown or Smith go down, someone to replace them. So what's the plan to replace? Is there a replacement tonight, or you can't go in thinking like that?
Well, we talked about it during the summer. We said that the third wide receiver position was the weak link because if Brown or Smith go down, now what do you do? And they made the trade for Dotson very late. Now, when they made the trade for Dotson, if you remember, we talked about the fact that Dotson was in the bottom 5 of the number of snaps per catches in the National Football League over his course of his career. In other words, he was on a lot of routes, but didn't catch a lot of balls, whether they weren't thrown to him or whether or not they misfired. But, that was the case last week, 26 snaps, and he only had 1 catch. So I think in this game, he's got a lot to prove. He's been working hard from all the reports that we get to fit into this system. But now, Jalen Hurts has been used to going up to the line of scrimmage and seeing number 11 to his left as his X receiver. In that system, the X receiver is to the left, Y receiver is far right, and the Z receiver is in the slot. Dotson has usually been a Z receiver in the slot. Now, they've been moving players around, and Smith has been playing in the slot with a lot of this pre-snap motion that Kellen Moore has been involved with that helped them last week against the Packers. Got Barkley open and on the wheel route for that touchdown pass in the corner of the end zone at Corinthians Stadium. That really started to open things up. So I don't know what they're going to do with Dotson, where they're going to put him. I'm interested to see how they're going to line up with him. I know Paris Campbell has always been a favorite of Nick Sirianni's. This is a big question mark going into this game. But to me, you've got to occupy Bates and Simmons because when Jalen Hurts comes to the line of scrimmage, his job is to find the safety, find number 31. Justin Simmons is the best player on the field. Experience. He's got the most interceptions in the last 4 years in the National Football League. Justin Simmons does, number 31. He can play, really play.
And he was on the street not too long ago. The Falcons scooped him up. So when you look at this Falcons team, what scares you the most about Atlanta tonight?
The defense. There's no question about it. I don't see how the Falcons score. They only scored 10 points, had 137 yards passing last week against Pittsburgh. That was at home. I don't see how they score unless the Eagles give the ball up. So if Jalen Hurts is throwing the ball to number 3 and number 31 in a Falcons uniform, and they get some interceptions in a short field, the Falcons will score. But if they don't turn the ball over, I think the Eagles I can't see the Falcons scoring more than 1 touchdown in this game. I really can't.
Well, that would be the Eagles' defense is pretty good, and that means, we could be talking about who tomorrow. We'll take a look at Sal Pal's keys to the game. Is there a defensive player that are a part of those keys to the game? Let's get Sal Pal's 3 keys for an Eagles win tonight.
All right, let's start with the defense. I think it has to be Zach Bond again. There's no question about it. Zach Bond has got to own Bijan Robinson in this game, number 7, their running back. He's their best offensive player by far. And if they shut down Bijan Robinson and they force them into 3rd and long or 2nd and long and Kirk Cousins has to throw the ball, then you tee off on him. And then the second guy on defense has to be either one of the edge rushers, Sweat or Huff. I mean, come on. We got to get some pressure off the edge. That really wasn't evident against the Packers, so that's got to happen. And then on the flip side, the key is really, I mean, it's not sustainable, Michael, It's not sustainable for Jalen Hurts to turn the ball over 3 times per game and the Eagles win. That's never happened before in Jalen Hurts' career, before he did it against the Packers. Last year, 2023, quarterbacks that turned the ball over 3 times were 5-47.
Do we lose you, Sal?
I got you.
All right. 5-47 is not good. And by the way, I had a number for you. I was, 5 consecutive games with an interception for Jalen Hurts. It's the longest active streak in the NFL. Last Eagles player with 6 straight was Carson Wentz back in 2016. You don't want to be approaching those type of turnover numbers.
Oh, so I did not know that number. 5 consecutive games with an interception is the longest active streak.
Yep. That's Jalen Hurts.
In the National Football League. And the last Eagles quarterback to hold that ignominious record was Carson Wentz.
That's right.
That's not a good comparison, brother.
No, it's not. Here's a couple more. That's before we get your extra keys to the game here, here's something for you. The Eagles have scored 30 points in each of their last 3 primetime games in Philadelphia. So how do they get to that number? What else needs to happen?
Yeah, I don't think they get to that number tonight. I have the Eagles winning 24-16. I think that the Falcons' defense is for real. They've got some players, Lorenzo Carter, Grady Jarrett, Matthew Judon. They have a defensive-minded head coach in Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris comes right out of the Tony Dungy, Tampa 2, Monty Kiffin defense, where he was the head coach down there in Tampa for years, where you pop the safeties deep, you keep everything in front of you. You don't give up the long ball. That's why I say the Eagles must challenge Bates and Simmons early in the game with their best wide receiver, Devontae Smith. He's the toughest, most reliable wide receiver with the best hands, and they should challenge those guys deep so that they're not nosing around the line of scrimmage, and that hopefully will open up things for Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert.
You know, the Falcons have lost by 1 possession 15 times since the start of 2022. This kind of smells like a close game, even though you look at the Falcons, it's kind of like but 1 possession games, that's kind of their MO. And with no A.J. Brown, you're going to have to find other ways to score. Yes. You know what I mean? It's one of those nights, right?
Yeah, the Falcons are the poster child for the modern NFL. The modern NFL right now in 23-24 is about 1-score games. Last year you had the highest percentage of games result in 1-score games, the highest in NFL history. And the Falcons are the poster child for 1-score games. And I think this will be a 1-score game, 24-16. I do.
Well, and when you came on, when we looked at the schedule, and you looked at Atlanta, New Orleans, and Tampa, that all looks different than it did back in April when that schedule came out, because New Orleans, they put on a show yesterday in Dallas, and Tampa Bay put on a show playing Detroit.
They never play well in New Orleans, the Eagles. They just don't.
Nope. By the way, I got the number for you, Sal, the key number. 93% of the money is going with the Birds on the money line. 83% is taking the 5.5 and swallowing it up and saying they like the Eagles tonight.
Yeah, 5.5 is not a big number. It's less than 6, so I mean that's not bad. I think the Eagles will cover. I don't know. Is the over/under 45? Where is it?
45.5 and 57% is taking the over.
Yeah, that one I'm not so sure about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
all right.
But I do like giving the points for sure.
Big game tonight with the NFC South now all of a sudden at the top of the list. New Orleans next week. We'll have Sal on Friday, but tonight he likes the Eagles close. They don't get to 30. We'll be talking about it tomorrow, and you can watch Sal Paolantonio on ESPN's coverage of Monday Night Football tonight. Sal Pal, don't forget my man Johnny G. Give him a nice text. Give him the pick.
Okay, I will. Johnny G is very bullish on the Birds tonight. He was giving me a score like 34-20 or something crazy like that, but he's a big fan. Johnny G, the Grinder team. I was down in Ocean City last week for a couple of days, went to Uncle Bill's, hung out, and of course saw Johnny G at the Burger Realty there on Asbury Avenue in Ocean City.
All right, man. We'll talk to you on Friday.
Okay, thanks, Michael.
Sal Paolantonio, everybody. A Sal Pal Monday with the Eagles playing on Monday night. He likes the Eagles, 24-16, something close like that. 24-16. He likes him to cover, but likes a close game. Falcons, 8 one-score games, 15 one-score games. It's the most in the NFL since 2022. Sal Paolantonio's pick here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, live from Lincoln Financial Field. His keys to the game, he gave you the 3 keys to the game, which, by the way, let's take a look back at what he said for his keys to the game tonight. When you take a look at number 1, you take a look at Jalen Hurts in this game tonight. We haven't talked a whole heck of a lot about him because of the injury there. But when you take a look at his keys to the game, protect Jalen Hurts. Let him make plays. Don't have him running around trying to do too much. Number 2, get the ball out quickly. Protection, get the ball out. Let the playmakers do things. Guys like Dotson. He mentioned Smith multiple times having a big game tonight. And stop the Falcons' rushing attack. Get after Kirk Cousins. He mentioned Cousins can't move all that well. Bryce Huff. Got to get Huff going today. You paid him a lot of money. What did McMullen say earlier? He said he guaranteed Huff gets a sack tonight. You ready to put money on that one yet?
I'm not so sure about that.
Have you contemplated?
I do like what Sal Pal said about Zach Bond. He was a name that we all talked about last week. And Nakobe Dean, too, for that matter. I like those guys tonight as well.
It's funny. You're right about Bond. No one's really brought him all that much. It's like, do we believe in Bond? Are we trusting Bond? Do we think Bond is like a difference maker? Is Bond like, did they find some superhero linebacker that like nobody knew about? Like that whole story to me is bizarre. Like he came out of nowhere and had the game that he did the other night. Yeah. But somebody texted in earlier who matches up with Pitts. That's a big matchup.
Mike, I was going to ask you, is it believing in Bond or is it believing that Vic Fangio believes in Bond?
Well, it's always nice to have somebody believe in you, right? It's always nice to have somebody like believe in you when you're the overlooked guy. When someone says you're not good enough, and then there's someone like a Fangio who has a great track record and great credentials, and he says, while everybody else says no, Champion says yes.
Right.
Those commercials back in the day? Yeah. So he's saying,
TV40.
I see what others don't see in you.
Right.
And I'm going, like, Andrew Van Ginkel was not a something until last year. Now, he is playing well with the Vikings. If you watch them last week and this week, he's played pretty well with them. But he gained a lot of that confidence by playing. And Fangio saying, look, there's something in you. Everybody needs, like, the very best players, the greats of the greats. They want to be coached hard. Now, I'm not saying Bond is like Lawrence Taylor, a great of the great, but maybe there was a great player there that just needed something more for someone to see out of him. All sports are circumstantial of the situation that you get put in. And maybe Zach Bond was in a spot that just wasn't a great spot for him, and now he had a coach that said, hey, I have a scheme that what I do, you work perfectly for. I don't know that I'm ready to say this guy is like a Pro Bowl, all-pro level linebacker, but for one night, my gosh. Now, I hope he's not Cal Stevenson, where he has the game of his life on a Saturday afternoon.
No, but as I said to you before, Mike, I can see him like Ahmad Brooks of the 49ers. When Vic Fangio was in San Francisco, everyone talked about Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis. But there was Ahmad Brooks getting 6-7 sacks a year, being that little everything guy. Maybe Bond is that. Maybe Bond is just a productive linebacker who gets to be the other guy.
I don't know what to make. I'm not sitting here ready to say, yes, I saw enough to say you don't have to be worried about him. I still think you have to be worried about the linebacker spot. I mean, both of those guys, I think, still have a lot to prove. But at least Bond puts you at ease a little bit more for at least one night. We'll see how he follows that up tonight. I think Bryce Huff, I actually think that bet is going to be made by me.
0.25.
Yeah.
You just need to get a half a sack.
I only say that because of my drive over here. I thought the same thing. Like, I could see Huff. Like, everyone's saying, he's been a disappointment, and then the coach isn't really talking him up. And he goes out there and makes the most of it, takes advantage and makes the most of his plays tonight.
What I think is interesting is Chris Long a week ago said this in the Greenlight Pod, and I haven't been able to get it out of my head. And after what John McMullen and you, Mike, are saying, it brings me back to this.
I don't think that grass was fair to rushers. I'm not going to give them excuses, but I don't think either side show what they really could do because of that grass. And I don't think Bryce Huff is the type of guy that's going to be out there on turf. He's a guy he's got a lot of torque, a lot of power. He's got to dig those cleats in the ground. So I'm not making excuses, but I think you're going to be happy with the pass rush.
I locked it in. In fact, I added Jalen Carter, who's also .25. I can see a Huff-Carter combination, and that wins me bucks right there.
You really are a Green Light guy now. I've converted Mike Gill to the Green Light podcast.
I don't have time for the Green Light podcast. I the cuts that you give me on this show are fine for me. Are you a Green Light podcast guy there, Pete?
No.
Do you listen to any of those? New Heights?
New Heights I will. I mean, just because it's, the Kelsey brothers, and I will go New Heights.
Mike, as Mike knows, Pete, I listen to all these player podcasts. They fascinate me.
About 1 million of them.
Yeah, I can't get them all, but I try to focus on the ones that I have something to do with our teams.
You got over or under. All right, let's go a couple over-unders real quick.
I got some here for you.
Okay, you got them. Let me have them.
Down, yeah. We'll go Dallas Goedert over 3.5.
100% over.
Wow. I was going to say, anytime I get excited about Goddard, he disappoints me.
That's true. It happens a lot.
Always. I'm like, tonight's the Goddard night. And then.
Yeah, he didn't have Kellen Moore in the past.
True.
Kellen Moore likes to go to the tight end. He did it in Dallas. He did it last year with the Chargers when it was the know-nothing guys out there.
Does Jalen Hurts like to go to the tight end?
Yeah, he don't throw over the middle of the field too often.
Well, when he does, he gets intercepted.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's why he doesn't throw there. Which would be why I'm out on Goddard.
Although I will say, Jalen Hurts did say this in his sit-down with Jason Kelsey. So, Mike, I know you're a basketball guy. Do you like this basketball analogy from Jalen Hurts?
My job is I'm playing point guard out there.
Yeah.
Times, where I'm dishing it out to this guy, then that guy, then that guy, and maybe a time where I ISO it up and, I take him to the basket,
Yeah, well, if he can be that guy, I'd be happy. I haven't seen a lot of him whipping it around the yard. Now, to his outside guys, yeah, but his third receiver gets no meat on the bone.
That's true.
By the way, receptions for yardage anyway, plus 140 for Saquon to get 25 or more.
25 yards receiving.
Yeah.
That's really one big play.
Just a little swing pass out of the backfield. Make a little move.
Yeah. He got that last week on only 2 catches.
I'm putting that in there.
Oh, you got that highlighted.
Locked it in. It's part of my
bet slip there.
Parlay.
Wow.
With the 2 guys getting the sack.
Just piecing this all together on the fly here at the Fanatics
We're
Sportsbook.
talking it out right now.
So okay, how about Jalen over under 230.5 passing?
I can't go there without A.J. Brown.
That's pretty high.
It's a little high without A.J. Brown. I think that's the caveat. Because guess what? They still have A.J. Terrell on the other side of the field for the Falcons.
What's the rushing number? Okay, so minus 110, 80 yards or more, plus 140 for 90 yards or more. 100 or more is plus 210.
For Saquon?
Yep.
He's not getting 100. No way.
Wow.
You have no faith in the offensive line.
Well, I think Atlanta, their defense, I just don't think they're a different defense than what we saw last week.
All right. Saquon.
I got to tell you, man, Bill Belichick doesn't agree with you. Take a listen.
The Falcons, they're not a big turnover team on defense, so it would surprise me to see them turn the ball over much because it really hasn't been their history or they don't have the playmakers to do that consistently, but they're going to need to do a good job against the receivers. And even with Brown out, still got to deal with Smith, Goddard, Barkley out of the backfield. And so I think it'll be a good test for the Atlanta defense.
Belichick doesn't believe in the Falcons' defense. Thoughts?
Well, I mean...
He didn't say that. He said he doesn't look at them as a turnover defense.
He says it could be a challenge for them. It could be a problem.
Well, yeah, I mean,
they can
it's
still
a challenge.
keep points off the board, though, and keep Barkley to under 100 or under 90.
It's a challenge with the receivers at the Eagles. And now he said even with Brown out, it's still a challenge. I don't know if he's being, somewhat nicer, but look, I think the Eagles, you mentioned Hurts 235. I don't know that there's that big play in them tonight. I think it's more kind of just like nickel and dime and first downs, moving the chains, and it's a Barkley night. I think it's a Barkley night.
So Barkley gets a lot of carries. Maybe he does get 90 to 100 yards. But that means a lot of touches for him.
Lock it in.
Get in.
Stick around. My Bet365 plays of the game. I'm building up my parlay right now. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Atlanta side of things. Former Atlanta running back Ovi Mihaly will join me. He's host of Believe in the Falcons on the Believe Podcast Network. What does the former Falcon running back think about the current Falcon running back and the yardage he could get tonight? Find out next here on the Sports Bash live from the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
We have the perfect sitting in traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
31 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live video on the X platform at Mike Gill Show. This hour is brought to you by Key Acura of Atlantic City. For a great car buying experience, go see Rocco and the team at Key Acura. Right now, to the end of the month, you could drive a 2025 Integra for $399 a month with $29.95 down. If you need more room, a 2024 RDX all-wheel drive is yours for $393 a month with $49.95 down. Visit Key Acura Atlantic City, Tilton Road in EHT. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. We're live at the Fanatic Sportsbook at the Gallery Bar, Book, and Games at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. You know, Jay-Z was here yesterday. Michael Rubin was here yesterday. Jalen Rose was here yesterday. Who else was here yesterday? You had like a whole list of guys. Who were they?
Des Bryant
was here yesterday.
Justin Thomas, two-time major champion.
He made the first bet here yesterday. The first bet as the Fanatic Sportsbook. He bet $100 on Alabama to win the national championship.
I don't think Beyonce was here, though.
No?
Nope.
There was a whole bunch of people, but no Beyonce. But we're here today. We didn't get the invite yesterday, but they told us to come up today, man. No, it's a great spot. Fanatic Sportsbook to watch the Eagles and the Falcons tonight. Right now, he's the host of Believe in the Falcons on the Believe Podcast Network. It's former Falcons fullback Ovi Mihaly, who joins me right now. He hosts with Michael Turner, who went to Northern Illinois, by the way, the running back. Couple running backs host Believe in the Falcons, and I got to start off with the running back. You got two running backs who usually break it down on Believe in Falcons. But are you guys going to be talking about Bijan Robinson having a big night tonight? That would be the first guy I think we should start with when you're looking at this Falcons team and how they match up, Ovi, with this Eagles defense.
You are not telling any lies, my friend. Thanks for having me on. And as a running back heavy lineup, me and Mike have to stop ourselves from going RB or offense crazy. But it's hard to not talk about Bijan when he has so much talent. He has otherworldly talent. He has the ability to be a Hall of Fame player if he plays up to his potential because he is so dynamic, stop and start, make people look silly. And we show that it's paramount that we get the run established. We showed that all the talk about not using Bijan last year isn't going to be an issue this year. But the problem is all that establishing the run doesn't really do any good if we can't run a solid play action. And our quarterback's a little bit, I'm sure we'll get to that. He can't move the way we wanted to move to make these play actions be believable. So all Bijan's work isn't being fully utilized.
Yeah, I know Bijan last year. I drafted him in my fantasy. I said, yo, you drafted this guy. Why don't you give him the ball? Didn't really happen as much last year. But, you know, Tyler Algier, nice player as well. But they drafted Drake London in the first round. Kyle Pitts in the first round. They got a lot of talent. Is it working out for them, all these high picks?
Well, the problem is, at least the problem was, we didn't have a quarterback. We had the Marcus Mariotas of the world and the Desmond Ritters of the world throw into all these high-power options, all these high-power weapons. So now we got Kirk Cousins, and we're good, right? Right? Almost. Yeah, we're almost good because Kirk has, again, this P word, the potential to be what he was in Minnesota, but everyone's wondering about his health. Everyone's wondering about his mobility. Everyone's wondering if he's the guy that we paid $100 million plus for. I think the answer is yes. It's just like when he's going to get to that point. I have no doubt that Kirk Cousins has the ability to be that top-tier quarterback and use weapons like Drake and Pitts and Bijan to their fullest ability. But even last game, people were scratching their heads because it seemed like the big names weren't getting the targets that Ray was getting, Ray or some other receivers were getting. And I know that we have a new quarterback. We also have a new coordinator. And those guys working together in a real game, I think it just there's a lot of rust there. Me and my teammate Michael Turner were going old school, saying back in our day, you played during the preseason. Back in our day, you got those pads set in the preseason. Back in our day, you didn't sit the starters just because you want to sit the starters. There's nothing wrong with putting yourself a little bit at risk so you can get that game day ready speed. And the first game, they didn't look like they had that game day ready speed or that cohesiveness, and they weren't gelling the way you were supposed to gel if you were an NFL team.
Well, there's a lot of interesting young talent on the team. You mentioned Kirk Cousins. Are people starting to wonder, is it already time to make the switch to Michael Penix? Or is it not? Are we not there yet? Are we not there yet?
Absolutely not. You don't pay guys that coin and switch this early. It's not a Justin Fields, Russell Wilson type thing. It's actually crazy because I'm happy Justin Fields. I like Russell as well, but Justin Fields, with so much hate and so much just lack of confidence on him, to go back and to have the games he's had the last two games, I'm happy for the man. But this isn't a situation like that. This isn't Penix, Kirk Cousins. If Kirk plays bad 1 or 2 or 5 games, we're switching him out. The only way Penix has seen the field this year is if Kirk gets injured, God forbid. But fans won't stop saying it, though. Granted, they're going to chant, they're going to wish, they're going to want to, but I think Kirk Cousins is the guy who's going to be given every opportunity to show that he's worth that $100 million plus money.
Well, it's always tough when you have that young guy sitting there and the fans get restless, and then you don't perform. So last week, obviously, he looked a little rusty. We'll see what happens this week. When you take a look at the Falcons' defense, this is a team that added Simmons. They got Judon late in the game there, so they added 2 pieces late. Grady Jarrett's always been a problem for Philadelphia. Is that the strength of their team? Do you look at that defense as a playoff-worthy level defense?
Absolutely. No, me and Mike were saying that we were already going to win our division before we got Judon and Simmons. We already, with Kirk Cousins, someone who could throw these offensive weapons, are the best team in our division. I think that's the case. Even though Derek Carr has me worried, I thought he was going to be a used car salesman, and now he's actually playing at a high level. But I still feel like we're winning the division. You added those 2 people on the defensive side, which wins championships. I'm like, we're at least winning a playoff game. Like, we're now a dark horse to go deep in the playoffs. Now that we got our defense solidified and added some great weapons to my Wake Forest guy, Jesse Bates, to my boy Grady Jarrett, and just a really solid defense. Even the linebackers, people don't talk about that much, played a solid game our first game in. So with our defense now being able to rush the passer, get after the quarterback, still playing, great, coverage in our defensive backfield, like, we're set up to do some great things. I just hate that the defense – I'd be pissed if all was them. Like, how do you play such a great game and still lose? Team scores all field goals, and you're sitting here like, come on, offense. It reminds me of back when I was with the Ravens, and Ray Lewis-led defense was doing amazing things. And our Kyle Bowen-led offense back in 2003, 4, and 5 was just struggling. So I feel for my D.
We're talking with Obi Mihaly, host of Believe in the Falcons here, as the Falcons are in Philly. A.J. Brown's out tonight. How much does that change things from maybe you guys breaking this down earlier in the week and now game day knowing that Brown is out? Does that change a lot for you when you look at Philadelphia?
Absolutely. I mean, the game is won by your stars. Your stars have to play well, which is why we lost the game, because our star, Kirk, didn't play well. A.J. Brown was, he's a huge member of their team, and yeah, Devontae's great and he can do real well, but it just knocks it down. Like, you now have to have Devontae be the guy, and you have to have that number 2 play as well as Devontae would have played. So AJ, I wasn't going to battle the AJs, Brown versus Terrell.
Yeah.
But this is probably even better for our guy, AJ Terrell, to get his confidence back. He didn't do that great against George Pickens in the Steelers game. I think every time Pickens was throwing the ball, was targeted, he caught the ball and had yards. And people were starting to say, hey, AJ Terrell, you got a big contract just like Kirk. You got to play up to that. And that's the thing. Like, when people pay you, they expect you to play up to that level. I was blessed, and I was the highest paid fullback in NFL history way back in 2007. In my first year, we won like 3 games. And it was Bobby Petrino year, and they didn't even play me. And I heard it from the fans. They told me how much I was making to sit the bench, to per play. And it's about the coaches putting you the opportunity to win. Our coaches got to put AJ and Kirk an opportunity to win. It's not just a player's game. Players have to be put in a position to win. And I feel confident on the defensive side. Offensive side, I feel confident, too. It's going to take some time because we're not in sync just yet.
We look at give me a spot when you look at this matchup and you say, this is where I'm concerned. When I look, you watch Atlanta play all training camp, you know them well. It's all in week one. In this matchup, where's the spot that Philadelphia you think can exploit with their offense?
I think Philadelphia can exploit us probably with Saquon Barkley. The man's on fire. He is proving a point, and we hear him loud and clear. I don't think he's going to calm down. I don't think he's going to do less. He's going to try to do more. They're going to feed him because now everyone's realizing that, the Giants messed up. They let one of the best tailbacks, definitely in the league right now, and some would say, one of the best tailbacks to play in this game in a long time, Saquon Barkley, go out there angry. Like the angry runs they talk about, he's doing that. So I know that we did pretty good against the Steelers, but Saquon's a different back. He's a different breed. We held Najee down. I think if Saquon is able to put a dent in our defense, it's going to make it real hard to win this game because controlling that clock, moving the ball the way that he can, and having, their quarterback, again, he still didn't have his best game. He got sacked a little bit, but Jalen Hurts is no slouch at all. And if we let him and Saquon get going, it's going to be a long day for the Falcons.
All right, Ovi Mihaly's with me, former Falcons running back, also with the Baltimore Ravens. Actually, you look at two-time second-team All-Pro, by the way. You mentioned getting paid. Bryce Huff got paid and had a insignificant impact in the first game. Now, there are a lot of people talking about that field in Brazil. Is tonight a night that the Eagles' pass rush should get a little something going? Or do you like this Falcons offensive line?
I hate not being as positive and excited as I should be with my team, but last game we got taken advantage of. Our offensive line got taken advantage of, and Kirk was with his lack of mobility was getting rushed and was getting sacked, and just was getting hurried, didn't feel comfortable. And so when you have a guy who can't move the way that he wants to move, you got to make sure he's fully protected. Granted, we had T.J. Watt that was breathing down his neck every single time, but they pay the big pass rushers to make plays. So we really have one of these prove-it games in front of us because if we don't protect Kirk, nothing good is going to happen. And our offensive line, which I was raving about, me and Mike Turner were raving about how good our offensive line is, how Pro Football Focus rated them one of the top O-lines, about how we rushing the ball with Algiers and Bijan, and I think very highly about our guys, but it just did not work out. So today, if we play how we played last time, you're right. The Eagles and all their pass rushers are going to have a field day. But I think Coach Raheem had some conversations with the team, and we're going to come out a different team this year or this game and get a win, hopefully.
By the way, Michael Turner was one of my favorite guys to watch. You led the way for him for 1,700 yards and 17 touchdowns in 2008. So the pairing.
I was there.
Yes, I know. I remember because he was on my fantasy team, and I'd say, yo, this Mihaly's got some blocks, and Turner is he was in San Diego, underutilized, and now the podcast is Believe in the Falcons with Ovi and Michael Turner, and you can check that out. And, of course, the Eagles getting ready for a little Philadelphia. You ever play in Philly? You ever get a chance to get greeted by the Philly faithful?
Oh, definitely. Philly fans, it's, like Pittsburgh Steelers, like those fans, because, they hated us when I was in Baltimore, they got crazy loud. When the Falcons wanted to play the Steelers, they still were bad. But Philly fans, I don't care, rivalry or not, they are raucous. They're throwing stuff. They're yelling stuff. They want to make sure you hear it. You hear them. They will Google your mother, your kids. Like, nothing's off limits. Like, they want to get a rise out of you. They'll tell you about your mother this and your daughter that. I was like, it's actually a lot. It's a whole lot. You got to block it out and just play the game. But I personally love going to environments like that where you feel like it's a gladiator situation or like the film 300 and everyone's against you. So Philly definitely makes you feel unwelcome.
Well, let me tell you, a Monday night, there was a gentleman who started tailgating at 5:30 a.m. I don't know that he's going to make it in the game tonight, but the place has been rocking. It's packed. It's the home opener. It's Monday Night Football. It's the Eagles and the Falcons. And, of course, you can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Former Falcon, former Raven, Ovi Mihaly with me here breaking down a little Eagles and Falcons for us on the Sports Bash. Ovi, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Good breakdown there. He said, look, I want to be more positive, Pete. He wanted to be more positive about his offensive line, but he said, I just can't. Does that make that bet for Bryce Huff feel any better?
Listen, this is the game for Bryce Huff. Two guys I'm looking at, well, Devin White's not even playing right now, but those two additions on the defense this offseason, right now, I would not grade them so highly.
Nope, they have not been good additions. White hasn't played, and we'll see if he's even active tonight. And he's interesting. Like, do you even activate Devin White? He doesn't play special teams.
Right.
Because he seems like one of those guys that he's only active if Dean was hurt.
And he was the starter the entire training camp. He was the guy.
That story's weird.
That is a weird one.
But if you were listening to Sports Bash, McMullen told us the last 3 weeks of camp that Dean would be the starter, that he's been the better player. And that's why White was so perplexed as to what happened. In fact, he was getting first-team reps the other day in practice, McMullen tweeted out. All right, coming up, the Bet365 play of the day. I got a couple player props, but I'll give you a baseball play, too. Phil's tonight, brouhahas.
I got some 5 questions for you here.
We'll wrap it up next with that. It's all right here on the Sports Bash.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
6-5 play of the day. I got a couple that I like. I just locked them in there, PG. Bet365 play of the day. I like Devontae Smith over 72.5. You know, the last time he had no A.J. Brown, he went for 148 in that game against the Buccaneers. So lock that in there. I like, I'm taking a half a sack. It's 0.25 for Bryce Huff, and I'm adding in 0.25 sacks for Jalen Carter. I like what Ovi said. Their line not good enough. Carter gets a sack tonight. Huff gets a sack tonight. Over 72.5 for Devontae Smith. That's my Bet365 play of the day. What do you got?
Hot seat, NFL, John Harbaugh, Mike McCarthy, Doug Peterson, Brian Dable. Rank those guys.
Dable 1. McCarthy 2. Who was the third one?
John Harbaugh, Dougie P.
Peterson 3, Harbaugh 4.
Shohei Ohtani, 47 homers, 48 stolen bases with 16 games left. Does he get there?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, he does.
Kirk Cousins, 3-10 on Monday Night Football. Is primetime Kirk a thing here?
Yes.
How are you that bad?
He's been on some teams that just are never good enough.
All right, so it's circumstantial?
Yeah, I mean, Cousins is a middle of the rotor. He's an upper middle of the rotor.
All right.
He's a numbers guy, but not a guy you're like, I want him. You can have him.
KC outplayed yesterday. Mahomes 2 picks. Travis Kelce 1 catch. How can you explain things always smelling like roses for Kansas City?
I don't know. Kelce looks like he's kind of not the same player. They got some speed though. Worthy, Rice. No Pacheco. Pacheco's out for a while.
Big loss.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
6 to 8 weeks, gents.
What was that? They said a broken fibula. What else?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Broken fibula. Yeah, they're bringing back. They're bringing Kareem Hunt back.
Yeah, they were doing more tests today though to see like if he had some ligament damage. I didn't hear anything up to date on that, but Pacheco out. That's a big loss for them. We'll see. I mean, look, they are a couple plays away from being 0-2.
And finally, question number 5. We did future of Devin White already. The Rams. Are you out on the Rams with those injuries?
Geez, Kupp is now out for a long period of time. Puka Nacua is out for a long period of time.
Got blasted yesterday in Arizona.
That was not a good showing. I like the Rams a lot more than than other people did. I think I got to start bailing on the Rams. I'm out on the Rams. All right, here's my play. Tonight, I got Eagles. I like the Eagles tonight, 31-21. Eagles.
That's a cover.
31-21. I like the cover.
And the over.
Game balls. Smith gets the game ball. Smith gets the game ball on offense. And I'm going Jalen Carter on defense. I can't go. Can I go Baun again? I can't go Baun. I'm going Jalen Carter. He gets sacked. He's disruptive. And he's the guy we're talking about tomorrow right here on the Sports Bet. Hey, thanks to the Fanatics Sportsbook here at the Gallery Bar, booking games at Ocean Casino Resort. I would imagine this place is going to be rocking tonight for the Eagles and the Falcons and the Phillies. Guess what? You don't have to worry about what channel. They got every channel. Phillies, Monday Night Football, and every other game imaginable right here at the Fanatics Sportsbook. Have a great night, everybody.
I'm sending my Aunt Tina money directly to her bank account in the Philippines with Western Union.
I-16.
She's the self-proclaimed bingo queen of Manila, and I know better to interrupt her on bingo night, even to pick up cash.
N31.
Sending money direct to her bank account is super fast, and Aunt Tina gets more time to
bingo!
Be the bingo queen. Western Union. Send money in-store directly to their bank accounts in the Philippines. Services offered by Western Union Financial Services, Inc., NMLS number 906983, or Western Union International Services, LLC, NMLS number 906985. Licensed as money transmitters by the New York State Department of Financial Services. See terms for details.